Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes just outlining what all of you will hear in a few minutes tonight in our study session. But I wanted to set the tone just briefly to let everyone know that ultimately over the course of the next 4 months, which will probably lead to 5 and 6 before we get through the list, we are doing a couple of things in these study sessions. First and foremost, we're very likely starting every one of them at 5:30 for a bit, at least through April at this point, is what it's trending. And attempting to cover a couple of different topics. First and foremost, we have invited all of our partners and governmental entity type organizations to present before the council, to share a little bit about their organization, an introduction, talk a bit about the vision, about their initiatives, and essentially attempting to get all of those partners that we are currently either under contract with, under a professional services agreement, and or that we have close relationships to and pay membership dues to before our budget retreat in April. I just want to give all the council a well-rounded vision of what these organizations, these services and programs that they're all providing to the city in advance of that. We will also be incorporating in most of those meetings a key topic that ultimately will be a policy topic that the mayor and council will very likely be considering taking action on future items such as water, such as the unsheltered population and the like. And so I know that I've been working with the mayor and our staff to put together a list of those topics so that everybody has a bit of a runway in understanding. What I want to remind the council is there's no decisions that will be made in these study sessions, obviously. This is information and educational purposes primarily, but with the hopes that we can take bits and pieces of the information that can be incorporated into those requests for council action when the appropriate topic is going to be heard. And so tonight we've got our first partnership, which is the Sun Corridor, is the Boys and Girls Club of the Sun Corridor, and Mr. Matt Limberg will be presenting on that. And then following at 6 o'clock, we'll have the Arizona Water Company. They will be in to talk through the alternative designation of assured water supply, which again I understand is a very complex topic, but we want to begin to provide some information on that, on the new rulemaking that has recently passed, and the context of a potential partnership in the wastewater operations side and the reasons why the two work hand in hand on the east side of the interstate. And so with that, Madam Mayor and members of the council, I'll introduce Matt Limberg to the podium. And he's indicated to me that he's got 8 pages of presentation to make tonight, so I've limited him to 30 minutes.
Okay. And I see you have a tie on, Matt, so that means you're asking for money. That's what you've always told me.
I had
about. 2
jokes for tonight, and you stole the 2 of them. The last time I came, I had 3 pages. Tonight I have 8, and I have a tie on, so thank you. I guess my apology then goes to Councilwoman Romo, who sat through part of this same speech last week at the elementary school district office, so I apologize that you've heard some of this twice. So, that's perfect. Thank you. No, Mayor Fitzgibbons, Mayor Pro Tem Herman, rest of the council, City Manager Raines, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight to speak about Boys and Girls Clubs of the Sun Corridor and our partnership with the City of Casa Grande. It's been about 1.5 years since my last presentation, and in that we now have a mix of longtime members and new faces, wanted to go a little more into our history of our partnership than I normally do. But just as has been the case with every presentation I've ever given to this group, my hope is that you walk out of here tonight with a better understanding of how important the City of Casa Grande has been to our organization throughout our history, but especially in our formation in early years, with a clear sense of how much our organization appreciates and values our partnership with the City of Casa Grande, and a sense of pride for the role that each of you play individually and collectively in the impact that our organization has on the lives of thousands of young people every year. So thank you for the opportunity. Before I dive into the history, though, wanted to start my presentation with a brief overview of our mission and of our framework. Our mission is to inspire and enable all young people to realize their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible citizens. In practical words, we want to be a safe place for young people to go when they're not in school. We are part of Boys and Girls Club of America, and our national organization has been around since the early 1900s. There are over 1,100 local organizations worldwide, because we're on military installations throughout the world. And while all of these local organizations may physically look different, we are all unified in our pursuit of the following three outcomes. Academic success, where we want all of our members to graduate from high school, ready for college, trade school, military service, or employment. With good character and citizenship, we want all of our members to be engaged citizens who are involved in their communities and who model strong character. And healthy lifestyles. We want all of our members to adopt a healthy diet, practice healthy lifestyle choices, and to make a lifetime commitment to fitness. So by focusing on these outcomes, we know that we will help club members succeed both today and in the future. So just for reference, that was about a page and a half. So if you want to do the math in your head, you can calculate it out by then. So literally the next topic, I didn't know what to call the next subject, so I just titled it Beginnings, and we'll see where this takes us from there. In the mid-'90s, which was the best decade, by the way, in the mid-'90s, as Casa Grande Union High School was planning its move to the new campus, and the city of Casa Grande knew that it would be taking over the old campus, a steering committee was formed to review and determine the best way to use the old high school gym to serve young people. This committee was a who's who of Casa Grande dignitaries, but of special note tonight were the two city representatives who served on that committee, Mayor Bob Mitchell and Jerry Sullivan, who at the time was the community services director. From day one, before day one, the city of Casa Grande had a vested interest in our organization. This committee ultimately reviewed 3 youth service models: starting a Boys and Girls Club, starting a YMCA, or starting a standalone locally run nonprofit, before ultimately deciding to move forward with the Boys and Girls Club model. Boys and Girls Club of Casa Grande was incorporated in May 1997, and as the group transitioned from steering committee to our initial board of directors, they began working towards 2 goals. I can see you guys, every time I turn a page, you guys are, anyway. The organization, 2 goals. The organization would start serving young people with a school-based club at the beginning of the 1998-1999 school year, and the organization would move into the old high school gym as soon as possible. At this point, would also like to stop and highlight that both Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Sullivan continued serving on our initial board of directors, where they were also joined by future Mayor Bob Jackson. Over the rest of 1997, the beginning of 1998, the board began fundraising, developing partnerships, and working towards the 2 goals I just mentioned. Again, the city of Casa Grande played a huge part in the formation of our organization by committing to financially support the club with funds collected from the bed tax. The organization started renovating the old gym and began working with Casa Grande Elementary School District to develop the initial after-school program. Would like to pause here and recognize the role that CGESD has also played with our organization and its success since day one. We can't speak highly enough of them or thank them enough for their support throughout our history. So, Councilman Romo, please pass that along to your counterparts. After years of planning, our organization officially started serving Casa Grande students in August 1998 as an after-school program that met at Saguaro Elementary School. CGESD transported students from every elementary school and the one middle school at the time to our club, a practice that they continue today, and we served approximately 50 kids a day that first year. And after completing the renovation project, we moved into the old gym on June 1st, 1999 for our first summer program. As the years moved on, daily participation in our program consistently grew as we marketed our programs and the community grew. And as we solidified our place and standing in town, we wanted to serve more young people, especially those that would never come to our actual club. So we partnered with CGESD to offer Smart Moves, a BGCA prevention program, to every 5th grade class here in our community. And in one of the worst decisions we ever made, we agreed to take over operations of the local youth soccer league in 2003. Thank you, all of you, for coaching and sponsoring and letting your kids play in that league. There's some nodding. There's a lot of nodding up there. So, in the mid-2000s, based on demand for our services, we were able to increase our number of clubs. the beginning of the 2004-05 school year, we opened our Arizona City branch at Arizona City Elementary School for our second club. With this, we also changed our name to the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Casa Grande Valley. And while we're talking about 2004-2005, I'd also like to highlight that Mayor Pro Tem Herman served as our board president that year. Over the next 10 years, to keep up with growth of Casa Grande and the corresponding increased demand for our services, we opened 2 more school-based clubs in Casa Grande. The Ironwood branch opened in 2007, and the McCartney Ranch branch opened in 2015. Our goal up until that point had always been to serve young people ages 5 through 18, but in the early years, we were really only able to serve club members age 5 to 13, that K through 8th grade demographic. In early 2016, we started working with Bill Schwind, who at the time was the Community Services Director and a member of our board, and the Casa Grande Union High School District on an idea to serve high school students in the Vista Grande Library. After a successful 6-week test run at the end of the 2015 school year, we officially opened the lounge in August of 2016. That club continues to operate today, and we continue to receive national attention within BGCA for being one of the first organizations to serve teens in a school-based setting. Many of you attended Casa Grande Union High School, and I hope you don't take offense to this statement, but the gym was old when we went to school there, and the gym was old when we ran a Boys and Girls Club there. So throughout our history, we always knew that we wanted to eventually secure a long-term home. I don't have enough time to go into all of the backstory behind the new recreation center and our place in it, but please hear me when I say we love, in all capital letters, love the new recreation center. We had many conversations about the building before moving in and are so grateful that city staff set aside space in the new building for our organization to serve kids and allowed us to be part of the design process. We moved in the new building on May 6, 2019, and were immediately able to serve more young people because we had more space and it was better designed space for our needs. This also led to an expansion of our financial partnership with the city. We now and continue to receive city funding every year to operate the teen center in the new building. Excuse me. My next heading is called COVID, everybody's favorite topic. We are very proud of the fact that we had at least one club open every day of the pandemic. For those first 3 months, when we were limited to no more than 10 kids in a room, and had a massive waiting list, we served first responder and emergency health care families exclusively. Felt like if we could help those families, our community would be in a better spot. As the pandemic moved on, we realized that we needed to offer more programming, and we alternated between operating online learning labs and our regular after-school programming based on the educational plans of our 4 partner school districts. While operating clubs was certainly a challenge throughout the pandemic, I'm proud of our board's leadership and our staff's grit and determination in our quest to serve as many young people as we could every day. We went into the pandemic with 4 clubs, and by the end, we had doubled to 8. Prior to the pandemic, we had never operated more than 1 all-day program at a time, and at the height of the pandemic, we were operating 4. One of the big moments of the pandemic for me was in a board meeting when we were talking about opening another learning lab because of our still massive waiting list. And one of our board members said, I don't know how we are going to pay for it, but this is what our community needs, so we need to do it. Excuse me. One of the longest lasting and impactful moments of the pandemic for us started in the spring of 2020 when we had a conversation with Steve Hardesty, who was the Community Services Director, about Lincola Recreation Center. At that point, we had extra staff, and Lincola wasn't open at all. I asked Steve if we could use it as a learning lab, and after a series of discussions, it became one of our temporary locations that summer of 2020. Our organization served the Lincola community well in that role, and after another series of discussions, we officially agreed to a program swap with the City of Casa Grande in August of 2021, where we took over operations of Lincola. And in the greatest day in our organization's history, the City of Casa Grande took over operations of the Youth Soccer League. We immediately closed the building for a small renovation project, because what better way to announce it to a community than closing it, but still served those club members with a school-based club at Palo Verde. and then reopen the new and improved facility in early 2022. And that continues to be a great source of pride for our community to continue that legacy at that facility. With this new partnership, the city also agreed to a short-term expanded funding increase again, which will expire after next year. Not only has Lincola given our organization a second home for regular out-of-school time programs like our holiday and school breaks, but it has also allowed us to serve more young people on Fridays during the school year, as CGESD is now a 4-day school week. Currently, we operate 7 clubs, 1 in Arizona City, 4 in Casa Grande, and 2 in Maricopa. Of these clubs, 5 are school-based and 2 are traditional standalone clubs. Currently, our average daily attendance, or ADA, is 650, meaning we see over 650 young people every day across our organization. Our Casa Grande ADA is over 360, so well over half of that number. Currently, we have over 1,000 registered members in Casa Grande, and in Casa Grande so far in 24-25, we have had over 38,000 daily visits, which puts us on course to double that number from last year, or to increase, go over the number from last year. A couple of highlights from individual days. On August 16th, we served over 100 club members at Lincola for the first time ever. We have done it over a dozen times since then, with a high of 106 on August 21st. On September 4th, we served 426 Casa Grande club members, making that our highest single day total ever. And that was also the first day that we surpassed 200 club members at the Nap Lawrence branch, and it was also the day that we hit the highest number in our organization's history at 729. Moving into some financial information, our monthly program fee is $80. Our organization wants to ensure that our services are available to all families and all young people who want to use us, so we provide financial assistance to any family who needs it. On top of that, we don't charge teens or any of our families from Palo Verde any fees at all. So currently, over 55% of our members receive some level of financial assistance, come to attend one of our programs. Our current operating budget is $1.8 million. We get those funds from the following revenue streams, and they are broken down by percentage. Business and individual contributions represents 30%. Fundraising events represents 5%. Government support represents 20%. And within that 20%, 13% of our overall budget is the funds that we receive from the city of Casa Grande. Grants represents 20%, and program fees represents 25%. So we joke that we have the worst business model in the world. Every time we take in another kid, we lose more money and need to raise more. So it's what we're here, though, and it's the challenge that we love and embrace. So thank you, City of Casa Grande, for your continued and generous support. As we look ahead, for the last 4+ years, our biggest question has been, how do we get through today? And if we were lucky, how do we get through tomorrow? It seems like everything has slowed down, though, and as a result, we've been able to talk amongst our staff and board and ask questions like, what do we want to be doing in 6 months? And if money wasn't an issue, what would the club experience look like? And so it's a really incredibly exciting time for our organization. Just a couple small examples. We started a guitar program at the Nap Lawrence branch for teens prior to the pandemic. We're excited to bring that back this year. We also started a bucket drumming class at Lincola for our younger members, and it is as awesome as you would imagine. Pool noodles and Home Depot buckets. We should have seen the young men hitting each other with the pool noodles. That was on us. We continue to opt for programs like Positive Action, which is a prevention program, Power Hour, which is a homework help and tutoring program, and Triple Play, which is a healthy habits program. Our goal is to continue to deepen our impact on our members. From a fundraising initiative, as Mayor Fitzgibbons, that's the first time I've ever said that publicly. That was fun to say. From a fundraising initiative standpoint, we want to expand and strengthen our current events and campaigns. Dancing for Our Stars, again, for the 4th year in a row, I am not billed as a performer that day, so that's my favorite part of that. But that's coming up March 22nd, and we're excited about the growth of that. The Territorial Party is our new fall event that celebrates essentially Mayor Pro Tem Herman's love of ASU is essentially what it celebrates. But we are excited about our place within the two universities and look forward to expanding that. And our tax credit campaign. That's a great opportunity in the state of Arizona for taxpayers to direct their tax dollars to local schools and local nonprofits like ours, and we look forward to expanding that. So as I close, I'd again like to thank you all, both individually and collectively, for supporting our organization in so many different ways. We're definitely dealing with different people than we were 27 years ago, but we are grateful for the continued and consistent support that we have received from this body of people. We'd also appreciate the support that we've received from so many different staff members, many of them who are in this room today. We could not serve the youth of Casa Grande to the extent that we do without all of you. So thank you. It was 8 pages. Feels like it was quick. I can talk a lot. So part of this was time for questions, though, and certainly would like to entertain and respect time to the next speaker as well. So,
Okay, any questions, comments?
No questions, Mr. Lindbergh. Thank you so much for your service, your sacrifice that you've done in our community. You've been here working with our youth for many, many years, and I appreciate that. I just have to say thank you so much with the Lynn Cola. I'm a product of Lynn Cola recreational facility. Lynn Cola was one of my teachers, and so I'm so thankful that we got that up and running, and it's going very well. It looks very nice inside, different. The gym's different. But so thank you so much for keeping that product, Lynn Cola, going. And I know it's really helping our community and even the relationship that we have, even with that school over there, Palo Verde. I'm so thankful for you all doing that. So I just wanted to say that to you.
great, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I would just like to comment, thank you. I was there when the Park and Rec opened, and I was at Cactus when the Parks and Rec opened for our students, and it's just a great opportunity for them. It's a great place for them to go after school, and I appreciate you and all you've done for our community.
Thank you.
Sure, Matt.
So, so I remember years ago, over 20 now, and we were getting the soccer program. I was on the Boys and Girls Club side at that time, and we were getting the soccer program from the city, and like, who's going to run it? And there was this kid I went to high school with who had longer hair and earrings and whatnot. Excuse me, but he knew how to play soccer.
Good looking.
So like, hey, let's give it a shot, right? And we had another director at that time, and I want to say one of the best decisions we made, because Matt's a product of our city as well. And he kind of skirted the issue, but my claim to fame, besides being older than Matt, as he'll point out every time we're together,
That's true.
is that I was president of the board when we hired Matt. We had a situation come up, and we were looking for someone to take over, and we found the right guy. Look, here we are 20 years later, giving back to our community so much. We had a little recognition ceremony today over at the Boys and Girls Club. I got to check it out when it was operating, and Matt was very a little bit embarrassed, humble, but all the kids were gathered around, and when he walks in, all the kids just get excited, and they were happy. You can tell that he's the heart of that organization, and we were talking. I mean, the facility looks great still. It's holding up very well. We were talking how fortunate we were to have a facility like that, because we started out in the old Cougar Gym all those many years ago, which, like as Matt said, when Matt and I went to high school here, it was old at that time. It's been a while since we went to high school here. And then one of the neat things to me today is I got to see the teen program, because we've wrestled with that as a city, as a youth commission, as a Boys and Girls Club of always getting the teens. But there was over 25 teens today after school in the teen center, and it was great to see them. And I mean, it's just a hub of activity over there. So, again, one of the greatest things we did, hire Matt, and for him to keep a job for 20 years here. I mean, we're just very fortunate. And I talked to other board members, Jessica McClinic today too, and she goes, yeah, no one stays at jobs that long anymore. But he told me he's going to stay for another 20 today. So.
Wow.
I heard you say that.
But
I was in that conversation.
but just thanks a lot, Matt, for for doing all this for our community, and and it's a job for you too, but it's so much more than that, and people can tell that it's it's a labor of love, and it's not just a job for you. It's your passion. So
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate the kind words. I represent a lot of great people in this role, right? So, thank you. But there's an army of great people walking beside me. So, thank you.
Well, and, ditto to everything you said, but, they're definitely an army, but, you definitely are, you are the face, of the Boys and Girls Club. And so when you do have those interactions, you're just respectful and tell people what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think that for us, we look at the financial, obligation or whatever from the city, but we really need to look at the human side. And what I love about your program, and you know me, I'm a huge supporter. That's why I did Dancing for Our Stars, which I literally don't know why I did it, but because you
were
walked in
awesome.
with your tie.
You were awesome.
And so beware, there's some good people
right.
in this room,
That's right.
Matt.
why
Except
I'm here
Brett.
tonight.
Maybe not Brett, he has a cane right now, but other than that, we have some good candidates here. But I love going to your clubs, to Lencola when they open the learning lab, and your youth breakfast, because this is who we all serve. And these young kids that have, just these dreams and, just the excitement of life, and they love coming to your club, and they have the support for you and your staff and the community members. So again, if anyone questions why we support the Boys and Girls Club, please go to some of these events, their facilities, the human side of it, and it's just a great program. So so again, thank you. Appreciate you coming in and giving everyone a background for those that might not know the history. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Matt.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I thought it would be appropriate for me to spend just another minute before we get into the topic of the ADOS and the 208, just to perhaps provide the new council members with a bit of an overview of the process. And so typically during our budget process, sometime between February and March, each of our partners that are providing these services that you're going to learn about here in the next few months, there is an application process. Really, it is an opportunity for us to better understand the resources that are being requested by the specific entity, as well as the scopes of service and programs that they anticipate providing to our community, perhaps even on the behalf of the city of Casa Grande. That is consolidated. You all will get copies of that as part of our budget process. And then we ultimately, based on the final discussion with council, we will allocate a dollar figure into our tentative budget. And then usually in the month of June or July, we're bringing the professional services agreements back to the council for your consideration. We typically do those all together based on the feedback that we've received from all of you during that budgetary process. But I thought it would be important for you to understand that context as you hear the following organizations, and we anticipate having all of the organizations ranging from the chamber, who actually serves as our destination marketing organization as well. They'll be presenting. We'll be hearing from the Pinal Alliance for Economic Growth. We'll be hearing from the Historic Museum. We'll be hearing from the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority, just to name a few. And so again, we've got those queued up. Some of them will come, we'll have a couple of scenarios where we have two organizations in one night, but ultimately we'll at least try to get one scheduled between now and the end of March so we can get through all of them before we meet in the budget retreat. And so with that, I want to pivot. I notice our friends from Arizona Water Company are here, Fred Schneider and Terry Sue Rossi. I had mentioned earlier as we opened the meeting that we wanted to spend some time with the council discussing the alternative designation of assured water supply, which is a methodology that a number of individuals within the community and the county, along with the water providers within the Pinal County AMA, have been working on diligently for a couple of years as one of the solutions to the water model issue, the groundwater model issue that we've been dealing with. And unlike Matt, I don't want to steal Fred and Terry Sue's thunder tonight, so I'm going to pause there. They're certainly the professionals. I think I know all of you know, I don't know that many of our residents recognize that the city is not the water provider within the incorporated city limits. That is Arizona Water Company. We do own a small water company that's outside of our city limits that was acquired in roughly 2001 with the intention of using that water supply that groundwater supply to provide services to the Copper Mountain Ranch development. There's a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes today in regards to the use of that and perhaps partnering with Arizona Water. But tonight, the focus is really the alternative designation of assured water supply, coupled with how that actually can be incorporated into partnerships on the effluent side, and really how they work together in conjunction. And so with that, I'll introduce the president, Fred Schneider of Arizona Water Company, and I'll let him kick off the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Larry. Great to be here. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to come in and present to you, to everybody, about some of the work we're doing. Two items we're going to talk about tonight is a quick update on what we're doing on the East Casa Grande wastewater, which is on the east side of I-10. If you may recall, those council members who were here before or may have been watching, we did an update back in February of last year. So I'm here to do another update of where we are today on that project. And then also, after I'm done, Terry Sue's Rossi, who is our Vice President of Water Resources, will get up and give a little more detail of all the work we've been doing with the city and some of the other partners in the Pinal AMA on the ADAS program. So we'll get started. Quick update. So the area we're looking at that you see in the orange color, which is you can see through, that is the city's Casa Grande's planning area, the DMA area. What we show in red is the Plan 208 planning area, which we would be looking to be the wastewater provider for, which you'll notice overlaps identically to the city's planning area. And then you'll see the blue boxes are the areas we're looking to actually serve in the initial CCN application and the initial phase of the wastewater project. You'll see we have the CCN application includes about 6,900 residential equivalent dwelling units with a capacity of that project about 1.7 million gallons of wastewater flows a day. The project will be serving Post Ranch, which you can see on the right-hand side. We have the insert. Number one is Post Ranch. Then we have Springwater Point, Hacienda Estates, and we included Phoenix Mart in the overall development when that project's ready to go. We can add other areas to develop to this wastewater facility and the plan by filing a CCN extension to add those projects when they're ready. So those folks that are not already included in the initial application can be added in a later date. It's about a 6-month process to get through that application process with the Corporation Commission. And I'll give you a little update of where we are in that application process shortly. Basically, to add the other folks, we'll need to have a quick wastewater master plan done so we can quantify the flows, quantify where the sewer mains will be, and then size the facility for the next expansion. And I'll get into the wastewater contractor that we selected. They're very unique in building a modular facility so we can easily expand it as we go. There's not things that you end up having to tear apart and redo. They basically repurpose all the different basins as the plant expands. We are looking to ultimately have 2 wastewater facilities, water reclamation facilities, on the east side of I-10. The first one we're looking at is the one to the south, which is located on Post Ranch. Chose that one because Post Ranch is one of the first developments to go forward. Ultimately, we'll need to have a larger facility than we'll be able to put on Post Ranch. So at some point, we'll expand that into the north water reclamation facility. That'll be located off of Overfield Road, probably someplace a little bit north of Cottonwood Lane. Don't have the exact site laid out. I'll give you a little more detail on how that works here shortly. But we're looking to ultimately have 2 wastewater facilities to serve the entire area on the east side of I-10. So here's a little more detail. So one of the key components on the wastewater side, as Larry mentioned, is the effluent. And as Terry Sue will get into next on the ADAS program, for the Assured Water Supply program, the effluent plays a key role in adding the renewable resources to the ADOS program to allow us to entitle and develop new residential homes. It also is key to be able to keep the water resources that are necessary for those homes at an affordable price so that we can make sure we stay competitive in the market and have affordable homes. So you'll see on the south water reclamation facility is where we're planning to do our initial facility. We'll be recharging at that site, probably for the first 2 or 3 MGD of capacity. At some point, the basins that are located on that property will be reclaimed so that we can use it to expand the wastewater facility. It's going to be great. We already have the holes there, so we can expand the facility. And ultimately, we'll move the regional facility to the north at the north facility, and that's where our regional recharge facility will be to put all the effluent back in the ground. And that'll be the effluent that isn't reused for various parks, landscaping, and direct uses that we can find. This will be water we'll put back in the ground, and we'll recover it for future use. The black circles you'll see are what we call the area of hydrologic impact. What they call is kind of the 1 mile safe harbor. So if you recharge water and recover it within that 1 mile area, you don't have to go through and firm up that water actually shows up in that recovery well. Outside that, this becomes much more complex model-wise. So everything we try to do is within the safe harbor criteria. So you'll see that area is fairly large. Up on the north water reclamation facility, in anticipation of that, we've already drilled a well, and we'll be expanding that and building a new plant up in that area. Ultimately, when we put effluent in the ground, that well would be permitted to recover effluent. So we're already planning ahead to make sure that when we need to recover the effluent, the infrastructure will be in place, and we're going to have that ability without having to go out and start building new facilities for that sole purpose. The way it works is that the growth will be served by the sewer system, that's as I described there, and this will provide about, we roughly estimate about 33% of all the water that we provide to a home is returned back to that wastewater facility as effluent that we can put back in the ground. I think in Casa Grande, Terry Sue may get into the detail, it might be closer to 40%, but generally the Arizona Department of Water Resources accepts 33%, unless we have data to support a higher number, which we think we have. But I think to keep things simple, we just use 1/3 because, as you'll see in her part, it makes the math work out fairly well. And if we can get up to 40%, it only makes things more cost effective from the home standpoint. So I see the 33% being kind of a worst case scenario in the sense of the least amount of effluent that we'll be getting back in the ground. Anticipated timeline. So we are right now on the 2.8 application. We have completed the application and we're ready to submit it to CAG. We're hoping to be able to submit that to Central Arizona Association of Governments, which is a local delegated authority from ADEQ in February or March. Then it generally take about 6 months to review that, so we'd expect to have their review and comments back in August. We then go out for public hearing, public comments, expect that to be in November. CAG would give us their approval in February. We then submit that to DEQ, which would give their approval in April of 26, and we'd have the EPA approval in October of 26. So you can see it's a fairly long process to get through the 2.8 application process, probably the most lengthy part we have in this entire process. The 2.8 CCN application, we filed that application, finalized it in February. We filed it in April of 2024. Last year, our hearings were held at the Arizona Corporation Commission up in Phoenix on November 15th of last year. The hearing went very well. It was a very abbreviated hearing. Larry Raines attended that hearing, kind of observed what was going on. Really down to some minor issues to get in front of the judge to make an opinion and order, and would expect the CCN to be up for approval to the commissioners in March of 25, so just a few months away. Timing and working with the developer of Post Ranch, who's really part of the phase 1 drive into this project. We're looking to begin the phase 1 design of the 0.3 MGD in April of 25. Expect to have the approval to construct submitted DEQ in March of 26. We'll have hopefully the approval to begin construction September of 26. Initially, we'll have to vault and haul the wastewater to another facility. In working with the city, we'd be looking to vault and haul it to the city's facility until we have flows that are large enough to be able to start the plant up on its own. It does take a few toilets to get the wastewater plant up and running and get the bugs going. So we'd see that being happening in September of '26, and we'd expect to be able to start up operations prior to October 27. The October 27 date is really dependent on how quick homes get developed and how fast we occupy them. That's a rough timeline. Quick breakdown of phases. We're looking to construct what we showed in that first 4 developers in six phases. So we just broke them out. Post Ranch will be kind of broken into 2 phases to get the project up and going. Then we're planning to most likely bring Springwater Point on, then Hacienda Estates, and then Phoenix Mart, first part, and then second part. We can always move these things around as we see fit, but from initial discussions, that's kind of what we had targeted from the timing. Might be something with Phoenix Mart a little sooner, but we can always fit them into that first phase whenever we're ready. Quick overview of the project. So the way it's broke up, we're partnered with PERC Water. We've had an agreement with PERC Water and memo of understanding to do something like this since 2014, so about 11 years now. We pursued a few projects we partnered with them on, this being one of the 4 projects. On the engineering side, we have Andy Haas, who's our VP of Engineering, and David Highway, who's our design manager. Both have wastewater experience. They'll be working on some of the engineering design with PERC Water. On PERC Water, they have a long history of building about 20 plants in Arizona. They design, build, and operate those facilities throughout the state. They'll be helping us operate that plant in the beginning, and we're figuring around year 3 or 4 is when we'll take the plant over on our own and run it, and we already have certified operators that can do that, which I'll get to next. In the operations side, we have Mark Kieran, who is a vice president of operations. He used to be the general manager down here, and we just hired Clint Arndt, who's our director of operations. He's a grade 4 water and wastewater operator, and he basically oversees the entire state under Mark as well. Last slide real quick. So just quick summary of the folks we have. So from the company's perspective, we have 15 wastewater treatment operators and 15 wastewater collection operators within the company. 3 of those on the treatment side are located in Casa Grande. 4 on the collection side are located in Casa Grande. And then PERC Water has 6 treatment operators and 3 collection operators within the state. And to just give you a quick breakdown, I've been involved in wastewater operations prior to joining Arizona Water Company. I've been doing this for 34 years now. Makes me start to feel old. So it's not new to me. It's been a while since I've done the wastewater operations. Mark Kieran did that with the city of Prescott Valley for a number of years, ran their wastewater operations. Definitely not new to it. David Highway has done the same in his career. He worked with, most recently, Liberty Utilities up in Goodyear. And then Steve Owen, one thing I love about PERC Water is their VP that we work with is located right here in Arizona. And we've worked with him on a number of projects over the years. So the nice thing is it's a local relationship they have within the state. It's not just somebody outside the state when there's a question you got to call. So that's kind of a quick update of where we're at in the process and permitting process and the team we have lined up to take on the work. And with that, that is the last slide I have on the wastewater side, because I know there's a lot more to talk about on the ADOS. But again, is there any questions? I know I went through that fairly quick since we've done an update before, but there's also new council members. So if there's questions, be more than happy to answer those.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Fred, I appreciate all the information. The only question I had on that is how far have we progressed towards the financial end of all this? Does Arizona Water put the infrastructure to include the reclamation facilities, or is that a combination of city and Arizona Water?
So right now we're working with the developer. We have the financial terms already worked out where part of it will be funded by Arizona Water Company, part of it's funded by the developers. Generally, as a utility, we don't go in and fund the utility infrastructure hoping that things go forward, so there's a whole refunding process. So it's a partnership we have with the developer. And then we're working with the city on various opportunities there might be on how the funding might occur outside of just what the developers looking at doing. And the developers here, Kevin Peterson's here, if there's any questions that maybe he could answer that I can. But
Okay.
I don't know if I answered that correctly. But it's a joint funding
Yeah,
project
I
between
was
us
just
and.
trying to foresee in the future, are we going to need the money to build 2 reclamation facilities?
So no, from a city funding standpoint, there is no city dollars we're looking at to utilize for funding either of the wastewater reclamation facilities. That'll all be funded by the various developers that will pay fees along the way, like hookup fees and such, or funded by by us as the investment into the infrastructure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Question, Matt?
With this, you guys would be owning all of the effluent water on that side? At that point, which is gonna be pretty valuable someday. Are we giving up anything by doing that? I'm just curious, or we would have to put in our own plant in order to own the effluent, correct?
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Herman, the short answer is that it becomes a key element for the next topic in the ADOS, but in essence, the city would control 100% of the effluent on the west side of town, the effluent that we're generating today, as well as, it's going to be, it's going to be a key discussion that will ultimately transpire for these developers that are pursuing the ADOS solution to find development. While we've had very limited dialogue with those developers today, my anticipation is that most of them are going to be coming in and suggesting that that we contribute that effluent back to them. And I think it's very highly likely that Arizona Water will see the same thing on this east side as well. Any new effluent that they generate, I think there's going to be an expectation that effluent is being dedicated back to their project to meet the terms of the alternative designation. But Fred, I don't know if you want to add to that, but I know Terry Sue is likely going to begin to cover that in the next half of this topic.
Yeah, she'll get in much more detail, but our commitment on the effluent is that the effluent that's generated within the area I described will be utilized and stay within the Casa Grande area. None of that effluent, are we looking to go do something different with it outside of that area that is generated from. That's where it came from, that's where it needs to stay.
And if I can just expand on that to give the council a context of the mechanism, as part of any type of partnership, there is a licensing agreement that the city and Arizona Water would ultimately enter into, and provisions that really define how that effluent is going to be utilized will be incorporated into that licensing agreement.
I know probably that's a big economic linchpin for this whole project. The other thing I was wondering, kind of along those lines, as we had talked about it before, back Steve Miller was a big proponent of these purple pipes. Like, so if we do new building on that side, and you guys may know more, I don't know if this is a place to talk about it, but, you know, is recovering more of that water from homes, as you build the homes new, it's a lot easier to put that type of system in. And I know other municipalities have done it. Is it that beneficial? I mean, it's a big question for this limited time, but is there any thoughts to that? I mean, I know that come more from our side with building code type stuff, and I don't want to put an unnecessary burden on anybody. But if the effluent's so important to this side, maybe it would make sense economically for them to do that.
So to keep the answer short, but 2 points. So where the effluent can offset a potable water demand, that's where it's valuable because there's less water resources, renewable sources that have to be acquired on the open market to offset that. And then also where those uses are high enough, large enough that you can actually fund that infrastructure. Putting those pipes in the roadways isn't inexpensive. So to use it just for miscellaneous landscaping would be probably cost prohibitive. But what we can get is like pocket parks and get it to open spaces and things where there's larger demands or it's along the pipeline. Those would be ideal locations to reuse that effluent to the best that we can.
So just very, very targeted, obviously. But yeah.
Very targeted, and you gotta look at, make sure the demands are high enough and they're gonna get the bang for the buck out of it.
And I know you guys think about a lot more than we do, so.
And Madam Mayor, if I can just add additional item, because I think it's going to become, I know it's going to become a key topic that this council is going to be evaluating as well. is that the idea of how effluent is utilized and allocated is likely, there's going to be some movement from what our traditional approach has been in the past. And I know that the council is aware today of the vision that we have had at the city in order to ultimately looking for a path that can recharge 100% of that effluent discharge that comes out of our plant after it's treated. And that always has been our goal, is to put it back into the aquifer and generate some level of long-term storage credit. We have not utilized any of those credits and from our recharge efforts, but I will say that it is highly probable that this council will be considering policies related to how effluent is allocated for future growth in the very near term.
Well put.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mayor, I just got one quick question. You mentioned on the new facility, as it's starting up and getting geared up and everything, all that, it's going to take a little bit of time before, you know, enough toilets get flushing, and you have to haul it to the existing Casa Grande water treatment facility, correct?
Correct, either to the facility or someplace.
So
where the flow gets in.
you've already worked with those guys and they can handle it, the volume, and then what's the logistics on how that transported? Is it semi-trucks? How's that get transported over there?
So great question. So usually the first part of the wastewater facility we'll construct is the pump station that would get the flows out of the sewer lines into the treatment plant to start the process. So we'd have that pump station operational. We basically turn the pump on, fill, trucks that haul wastewater, and we deliver it to some place within the city, either in the collection system or over to the city's wastewater facility. Keeping in mind the first phase is only 0.3 MGD. We probably have to have somewhere like 0.05 MGD to have it up and running, so it's a very nominal amount. And I think the city's wastewater facility is sized for 12 MGD, being expanded to 18. So when you figure 0.05 MGD out of
That's negligible.
18, I don't want to say it's nothing, but it's fairly negligible, but we'd have to work that out with the city to make sure
Okay.
that capacity is made available.
And you're working with them, and you will work with them in the future, I'm
We have
assuming.
talked to the
Yeah.
city about that
Okay.
when we're ready. They're open to doing that when we get to that point, but we also got to get the timing of when
Right,
it's
right.
really going to be available, right?
So those will be hauled on trucks. They're going to just haul right down Florence Boulevard, or?
Probably not right down Florence Boulevard. We probably would find a way to hop
Okay,
onto
all right.
I-8 and come around the other way. It's
Yeah,
probably not.
some-
I mean, people do that now. You're hauling, things from septic tanks that people have outside of the
Yeah.
sewer area. But no, these are bigger trucks.
Especially if it's a
We-
daily haul or something like that, people will start to.
It's probably once a week or so we'd haul stuff.
that's
But
not
no,
that
it's
big of a
not
deal.
something
Once
that
a
we
week,
would,
okay.
we would not be looking to drive those trucks through town. That's
Okay.
not where those things are fit to be.
That's a good point, though, Sean.
Yeah, great question, though. Yeah, we would not want those trucks if we could.
No, I know the septic guys run all through town all the time and stuff like that as well. But, just as you see a single truck running through, if it was daily, it would look kind of weird,
Maybe when it gets up near startup, it might be once a day or twice a day we have a truck. They are bigger trucks, though. They're not the septic haulers. They look like those, but they are larger trucks. But they're not trucks we take down Florence Boulevard. They're trucks we'd take down 10, 8, and back up the back way like Thornton or
Perfect.
something.
Perfect.
I think just where they're more appropriate.
Well, thank you.
Great question.
And Fred, I have a question. So I know on here you have, as far as the developments, you have Phoenix Smart.
Yes.
And so I understand, even though I don't know what's happening out there, but you have it on here. So, and you talked a little bit about the phases and the modular system. So that's why. So if nothing happens out at Phoenix Smart, it's not really going to affect anything as far as your costs or fees or anything that you'll pass on to the developments that are there.
Exactly. So the reason we put them at the very end, again, the timing of Phoenix Smart's always
I know.
in question. So we put it at the end so they would not be affected by the timing and phasing of the various developers ahead of them. But to the extent that Phoenix Smart was ready to go as part of one of those developments, we'd make it instead of 0.3 MGD, we'd make it 0.31 or whatever the volume they would need and incorporate into that phase to make sure they had capacity when
Right.
they're ready.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's because it's modular, we can fit them in just about whenever we
Okay.
need to.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Fred, if you don't mind, I'd like to make one point before Terry Sue takes the mic. Would you mind going back to the graph that shows the the geographic area, Steve? One more, I think it is. Okay, if I can, just for the council's benefit, and I think this is important to again, for you to understand the importance of the alternative designation, particularly on the east side. If you look at this map, you'll see the 3 developments that have received a certificate of assured water supply. These 3 areas, Post Ranch, Springwater Point, and Hacienda Estates, have certificates, which means that they can actually develop they can subdivide, they can develop and actually begin some level of construction under today's rules. The rest of this area, there are not any certificates of assured water supply, which kind of leads the transition and the importance, at least in Casa Grande. I'm highlighting the east side today of the ADOS, but we're going to see a lot of those same standards that ultimately will apply when we get to the west side and some of the developments that do not have a certificate of assured water supply on the west side of the interstate as well. Right. And the importance of the effluent to this, and you'll I think once Terry Sue gives her presentation, you'll have a better, clear sense of how that effluent component aligns with the alternative designation to open up development, open up the subdivisions once again versus the single lot plats that we've seen in the past or the like. So anyhow, I just wanted to lay that foundation before Terry Sue started talking specifically about the alternative designation.
All right, with that, I'll turn it to Terry Sue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops. So I'm a little smaller than Fred. So thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Welcome to all of you who are new to the council, and it's wonderful to see you up on the dais. Yes, congratulations to all of you. And I'm happy to be here today to talk about the designation of assured water supply. I will tell you that this is a long time coming, so I'm going to have a little bit of my presentation is going to focus a little bit on history, just to give us an appreciation for how much has happened to get us to this point today. So I'm going to begin with this, we call this our Growing Water Smart Workshop message. And I'm just going to read it, and we can all read along. Our community, farms, and businesses need water to thrive, and we risk becoming too dependent on groundwater. But we maintained our agricultural economy on Colorado River water, meaning CAP water, and we grew our communities on groundwater, both of which are expected to decline. Therefore, in order to protect our quality of life, help meet future water needs, and grow our economy, we need to reduce our reliance on groundwater, invest in sustainable water supplies, and use the water we have more efficiently. This was a message that we developed. When I say we, I'm talking about the city, Arizona Water Company, and the county. We met as a team in a Growing Water Smart workshop, a 3-day workshop, and part of our goals or part of our objectives was to develop this particular message. And what was important about this message was that we were to not externalize the blame. So we needed to focus on how did we get where we are today. And that's why this message is written the way that it is. And the point of this is so that we can begin to look at what actions can we take as a community in order to shift things and make a change. And so we used to show this, this message to ourselves every time we met. We began meeting back in 2019. I think we started regular meetings on water resources. We did this right before COVID, so like in February of 2020, and this is the result of that. And so everything that we have really been doing since then has stemmed from this beacon, from this objective. Back in 2019, we put together a rough estimate of water supplies and demand in the community. And so at the time, we were projecting by 2050 that there'd be about 44,000 acre feet of water. An acre foot is enough water to serve probably 4 homes in the city of Casa Grande. And we had at the time our direct CAP water deliveries. We had our recovered CAP water, And that was water that we stored in the ground and that we had pumped out of our wells through recovery permits, and then we had our current groundwater pumping. And the red that you see above there is what we consider to be our unmet demand. So over the course of the last 5 years, our work has really been about figuring out how to meet those unmet demands and have a sustainable water supply for the community. Along with that, at the same time, we were also, the city and Arizona Water Company was assisting the city in developing the water element for the general land use plan. And so as a part of that process, the city really embraced the idea of kind of putting water at the center of the general land use plan and thinking about water within the context of making smart decisions, structural decisions about how to reduce water use, how to maximize the use of the assets that we have, and to start thinking about what kind of economic development do we want to bring in the community, ones that have high water use and produce low jobs, few jobs, or ones that have low water use and produce high jobs, high-paying jobs. There were 4 goals that came out of the water resources element of the general land use plan. One was to implement water conservation measures to reduce outdoor water use. Another one was to reduce the daily total water use per capita and the daily residential water use per capita by 15% from the 2020 levels. A third goal was to maximize the use of effluent as an alternative to groundwater in appropriate applications. And number 4 was to develop additional water supplies to reduce dependency on groundwater. This is a graph that was put together for the 2030 plan. And in this plan, what this graph shows are the demands, and then what the demands would be like with conservation. And so the population that was projected at the time was for by 2050 to have about 140,000 people. The demand at that point would be about 30,000 acre feet, and with conservation, the demand would be more about 26,000 acre feet. So you can see that between 2019 and the general plan that we had done some refining on the estimates, and so it was getting a little bit tighter. So then, as far as the Growing Water Smart workshops was concerned, we were tasked with, in addition, putting together a message and an action plan, and we came up with these 4 specific actions that we needed to take. One was we needed to do supply and demand management. And so we were going to develop a water conservation for Casa Grande, and at the time we even aspired that program could be expanded to include other communities in the county, and that we also wanted to focus on allocation of the water supplies across existing and future demands. And part of, I think, the conversation, the beginning of the conversation today and the conversation that Larry was alluding to, is that issue of how do we allocate the existing water supplies that we have? How much goes to existing customers, how much to future customers? The second action plan item was to solidify our groundwater supply. And so this was about tracking all the certificates of assured water supply within our water planning area, and specifically within the general land use plan of Casa Grande, getting an idea of where all these certificates were, how many units are within it, how many of those units have been built, how much water do they use now, how much water were they allowed to use under the certificate, what's the capacity that we have. And so that was a very enlightening process, and we continue to refine that, and we're really getting that honed in through our geospatial databases. The third thing that we came up with as far as an action plan item was to come up with a reclaimed water utilization plan, which we put together, I think, back in 21, if I recall correctly. And then the fourth was the additional water supply acquisition. So those were the action plan items that we came up with at that workshop. All of that for Arizona Water Company has culminated into this basic water resource strategy. So our strategy is to secure and maintain a diverse water supply portfolio for our community, and specifically for Casa Grande. And what we mean by that is that a reliable and sustainable water supply is one that is available to us, that we can serve under a variety of hydrologic and operational conditions. So no matter what's going on, if the Colorado River is dry, if there's an operational issue where we can't use a particular well, or let's say the CAP is down, We're looking for creating a water supply that under any conditions we can provide water to our customers. And groundwater plays an important role in that portfolio. But we're trying to balance redundancy and affordable prices. So we don't want to have a system that is too redundant, because then you're going to be paying a lot more money in order to make that water supply available. So you're looking for a balance. The second part of our strategy is to promote the efficient use of all the water supplies we have. So it doesn't matter, what type of a customer you have. Doesn't matter if they're an existing customer or a future customer. It doesn't matter what type of water they're using. It doesn't matter the type of use. Whoever you are, including the city, including Arizona Water Company, we're going to use that water as efficiently as possible. Because we look at conservation as really creating a water supply in a way. To the degree that we reduce the water use, that's less water that we have to go out and acquire. So we also developed a water resource strategy at the time. And we still follow this water resource strategy. So one was the development of a demand management program. I'm hoping that all of you are familiar with the Casa Grande Save It program. So that's our water conservation program that we've implemented with the city. And it's been we implemented in 2021. We consider it to be our flagship program. And it's been featured in a number of different videos and articles throughout the country for its effectiveness and for its ingenuity. So it's a kind of a first-of-a-kind kind of program that's involving a city and a private water company, and taking the assets of the city and the assets of the private water company and putting them together in a single comprehensive program. The second strategy was to quantify our groundwater rights, and that was a part of the solidifying of our groundwater rights, and we've made great strides in that and have a really good handle on that now. The reclaimed water utilization plan was another piece of that. Allocation of existing supplies, and evaluation of shifting to an assured water supply designation. So today, after all this time, we are at the point where we believe, the city and Arizona Water Company believe, that this is possible for us to do. And so I'm very happy to be able to stand up and say that, because there have been times when I've wondered if we would ever get to this point, because it's been a big lift. We've also, another one of our goals was to apply for something called CAP and IA water. Another is the conversion of the Gila River water to municipal use, and then the acquisition of a buffer water supply. So these have been our strategies that we've been working on, and we've worked on all of these strategies with the exception of number 4. And number 4 is kind of where we're at today. Oops, there we go. So I want to talk a little bit about the Assured Water Supply Program and the evolution of the program. So an Assured Water Supply is a 100-year assured water supply. So in Arizona, back in the 70s, there was a lot of land fraud, and people were selling land and saying, hey, come on out to Arizona for $500 or $100 an acre, you can have your retirement home. And they would get out here and there would be no water. There would be no infrastructure, there would be no sewer, and people who lived in the East Coast came out here and discovered that they had been swindled. And so the legislature decided to do something about that, and they created this 100-year assured water supply program. Well, little did they know that at the time they would be developing an historic program that would become really a landmark piece of legislation that would be modeled across the United States, and at least the western United States, in other states. And so that's what they created. It was further refined in 1980 with the Groundwater Management Act, and then rules were developed in 1995. And then the most significant change to those rules was adopted last November, which is the part of the program that's going to allow us to make our transition from being a water provider that secures an assured water supply by specific subdivisions, and instead secures an assured water supply for our entire service area. So historically, and Larry was referring to this when he was talking about the certificates of assured water supply, the way that we got an assured water supply was for a developer to go out and prove an assured water supply for their specific development. So what we're doing is we're moving from a piecemeal system of creating an assured water supply to a comprehensive approach to creating an assured water supply, where the city will have a much more active role in shaping how that happens. So that's kind of number one. So number two is the overallocation of the groundwater in terms of assured water supply determinations. So over time, the Department of Water Resources was issuing these certificates of assured water supply, and right around, I'm going to say 2015 timeframe, they started to notice that there was something going on. And so they started to dig in deeper into their models, and in 2019, October of 2019, they announced that there were too many assured water supply certificates issued, too many assured water supply determinations issued relative to the volume of groundwater that they found within the modeling environment. And so there was they announced that there was 8.1 million acre feet of what they called unmet demand, but basically that meant the groundwater model was short about 8.1 million acre feet. And at that point, they basically put the skids on things. The economy, the Great Recession had kind of put the skids on things, but right around 2018 timeframe, you might remember things started to cook again, things started to improve. And then in 2021, June of 2021, the department officially announced that no new certificates of assured water supply would be issued in the Pinal AMA, anywhere in the Pinal AMA, if they were dependent on any groundwater. And so that effectively shut down any new subdivisions. So that means that if you got your certificate of assured water supply, and the last one that was issued was in July of 2011, then those were the only pieces of land in Casa Grande where you had an assured water supply, and the only pieces of land that could be subdivided going forward. So then all that happened, and then between 2020 and 2024, we've had a number of different pieces of legislation, and then those have had varying success, but not to the degree of creating a path forward for us in terms of an assured water supply. But in 2024, the Assured Water Supply Program was modified by the Department of Water Resources, actually as the result of the Phoenix AMA model having unmet demands. And we fought like crazy. The city of Casa Grande, the county, the water providers down here fought like crazy to get this same methodology applied here in the Pinal AMA. And on November, right before Thanksgiving, we were successful in making that happen. And the mayor, I like to say that the mayor and I closed the whole thing because we were the last two people to speak, and on the day that they made that decision.
That's right, they sent in the closers, huh?
Yeah, we were the closers, which was great. That's a great feeling. You get a lot of credit, but I have to say there were a lot of people's shoulders that we were standing on.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm glad we were good closers. So just some highlights about how we call it the alternative designation of assured water supply because it's an alternative method. There's really not three methods now. There's still designation and certificate, but this is an alternative method of securing an assured water supply at the service area level. So one of the highlights is that as a water provider, you're bringing in a water supply and you're pledging it for your entire service area. And so every time a water supply is pledged, then you have to dedicate 25% of that water supply to the existing customers. So the overall objective on the designation is to go from however much groundwater you're using today, the objective is for you to really, in the end, only be using a very small amount of groundwater that they consider to be renewable, which is roughly 4% of your demand. So you're really working to go from being a groundwater-based system to being a water provider that uses a very small amount of groundwater. So the other thing that is on a high level is that CAP water and effluent that's historically recovered in what we would call outside the area of hydrologic impact. You might recall Fred showed you a picture of the safe harbor. Those were the rings around the recharge project. So inside of that ring is what they call the area of hydrologic impact, and that 1 mile is sort of a default. But you can model something and show what you think it actually is and make those areas larger. And so historically, Arizona Water Company has recovered CAP water outside the area of hydrologic impact, and we have not recovered any of the effluent. It's only been stored. And so one of the things that the rules said is if you have a water supply and you're storing it and recovering it outside the area of hydrologic impact, we're going to let you change how you're using it, and we're calling that repurposing it. And you can store that water inside, or you can store and recover inside the area of hydrologic impact, and you can count that as a new water supply towards your designation. So that was another critical piece that we needed in order for this to work for us. A third thing was that there was an issue when we were in a certificate-based provider. We could not commingle a new water supply with the groundwater in the same system. So if a developer went out and got a new water supply, an alternative water supply, a non-groundwater supply, and brought it to us, we couldn't even deliver it to them without developing a parallel system that would take that water to that subdivision. There's a whole story behind that, which I don't want to get into, but that was the way that the system worked. As a result of becoming designated through this process, we no longer have to worry about duplicate systems. The other thing that the Department of Water Resources said was, we're going to honor all these groundwater allowances that were issued with these original certificates. So when these certificates were issued, they were given some groundwater to live off of for a period of time until the renewable supplies were available for them to use. And so that was also an important part, because it gives us a cushion to go from this groundwater-based system off onto the renewable supply system. And then they finally agreed to allow for the use of these extinguishment credits that were pledged to these original certificates to also be honored, which is really more of a financial mechanism. And we'll have other conversations where we can talk about those. So, but those were all really important things that we needed to see happen in order for this to work for our communities and for us. So we're creating what we call a proof of concept. So we're in between this world of being on these certificates and being a service area that's designated as having an assured water supply. And so we're looking for some people who are willing to be almost like guinea pigs in the process to show exactly how we would work the process. So we're not going to be going out and acquiring a big water supply and bringing it in and saying, here's our big water supply, here's our 10,000 acre feet of water, please put this in our designation. It's not going to work like that. We're going to be going in small tranches, and they're going to look like the water that the developer would bring. So I'm going to describe how that process will work a little bit. So if the new development has a demand of, say, 300 acre feet, so the rule is that the water supply, you have to provide 25% in order to be given to the existing customers. That's called the groundwater offset. So the first thing we have to do is we have to gross up that demand number to be the actual water supply. So you divide that by, you divide that by 0.75 and you get to 400 acre feet. So the water supply that's being dedicated is 400 acre feet. A lot of people think, well, you just take the 300 and multiply it by the 25, but then the subdivision would be shorted, right? It would be short by 75 acre feet. So you have to gross it up to 400 acre feet. And then that's the actual water supply that's dedicated. 25% of that has to be used for the groundwater offset. Arizona Water Company will dedicate 100, in this example, 100 acre feet of its CAP allocation to make up that groundwater offset. And then, so by doing that, if the groundwater offset, if they had to pay for the groundwater offset and the demand, the cost of the new water supply would be about $16,700 an acre foot. And I kind of jumped the shark a little bit on the solution. But if the developer had to do this all on its own and get that additional 25%, it would cost about $16,700 per unit to develop. But now I want to talk about the importance of the CAP water and the effluent. So the 400 acre feet of supply, the way that we look at it is 100 acre foot would be met by our CAP water because we're going to be delivering that to our existing customers. So we don't expect the developers to bring that to the table. We have a CAP entitlement. We're delivering it to our customers right now, but we're recovering it outside the area of hydrologic impact. So now we're going to move it inside the area of hydrologic impact. It becomes a new water supply, and it's consistent with the designation of assured water supply. So that leaves 300 acre feet for the development's demand. And this is where the effluent comes into play. So we are assuming right now that the effluent is going to make up about 33% of the demand. Like what Fred was saying, we actually think that that number is higher, but this is the number that the department is comfortable with. We're in the process of showing them data that will prove that that number is actually a little bit different. But as a result of that, then the developer would only need to acquire 200 acre feet, because 33% of the 300 is 100. So Arizona Water Company's dedicated 100 acre feet of its CAP water. The city is dedicating 100 acre feet of its effluent. Or, for example, if it fell within our CCNN, new CCNN for wastewater, we would be dedicating 100 acre feet of effluent and 100 acre feet of CAP water. That's how that would look. And as a result of those two contributions, the cost of the new water supply would be $8,300 per unit, which is less than half of the cost expected without the effluent and the CAP. And if the effluent ends up being, say, 42%, then that's even going to be less for that new home. And as we know, the housing environment is very competitive, and we're trying to create the most affordable housing environment that we can. So without the CAP, without the effluent, we really wouldn't be able to create this kind of strategy. So here's a bigger picture of the general land use planning area, and this kind of gives a concept of kind of the complexity of the effluent management. So you can see over the right, those are the two areas of hydrologic impact that Fred showed you earlier. And my graphic's a little bit off because the ones that the engineers put together was a little more precise. And then the city's recharge project is that long, skinny piece off to the left, and they have a different kind of recharge project that's a managed aquifer recharge project. And so the area of hydrologic impact is 1 mile from the impact where the recharge project is discharging. And so those are the areas that we're looking to recover the effluent from. And so the idea behind this is that the entity that produces the wastewater, that's the entity that's responsible, obviously, for collecting and treating the wastewater, and then also for actually recharging the water. And then the water provider is responsible for recovering it from within the area of hydrologic impact. What we want to eventually do is get all of our areas of hydrologic impact into the areas where the existing wells are, so that will be more cost-effective for the entire community as a whole. The other thing that we're looking to do is, you can't see it from this map, but there's something called a ridge, which is like a mountain under the ground that is kind of goes right up through the recharge project, the city's managed aquifer recharge project. And so it's not as productive in terms of wells. So we're looking at how do we make all of this work and to move things into positions where it's going to be most effective for the future, for the existing and the future customers. So this was the graphic I showed you earlier with the supply and demand estimates that we came up with before, and we've got a new idea of what that's going to be for our, I'm looking at these numbers, and these numbers are not jiving for me. So the number up in the right-hand corner should actually be 33,575 acre feet. So I apologize for that, Larry. I will fix that. That is not a correct number. But this is the same graphic, but it's been updated for the assured water supply designation. You can see the direct delivery of CAP water. For those of you who are not aware, we deliver water directly to Francisco Grande, to the sports complex, and to the SRP generating station. Then there's the recovered CAP water, which we talked about before, and then there's the groundwater. And so what we're going to be doing is taking our new alternative water supplies, which will be acquired by our new developments, and our effluent, and between those two, we're able to meet that gap of unmet demands that you saw in the past. And so you see the groundwater going down to a much smaller percentage. So this is the overall strategy that we're looking at. And the projected demand, which is actually based on deliveries, is about 33,000 acre feet. All told, with lost and accounted for, we're expecting about 35,000 acre feet of demand. And that's my last slide. So I'm happy to take any questions. I know that was a lot of information, and I'm sure that this is not the only time that we will talk about this. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Sure.
The only question is something you just mentioned, I just kind of caught it, that one of the things we need to look to in the future is our recharge points need to be closer to existing wells, not necessarily the reclamation facility itself, just the recharge points would need to be located closer to where the existing Arizona water wells are at.
Yes, so, and that's also true of the recharge projects that we would develop as
Right.
well. And so there's probably opportunity for some collaboration there to centralize those recharge basins in a way that we can leverage the existing wells as much as possible.
Okay, that's all I had, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? No? Well, Terry Sue, thank you. I mean, obviously, this is definitely, huge and so much going on, but we really appreciate everything with Arizona Water, and I know we meet on a regular basis, once a month for sure, with Arizona Water and city management. Of course, the previous mayor was involved in all of this, so we appreciate, we're hoping everything continues to go in our favor here, and so, but thank you for keeping us updated and
Yes, thank
giving
you.
everyone an update. We'll probably count on this more frequently, I would imagine.
Yes.
These discussions. So
Now,
thank
this
you.
will be one of many conversations
Yes.
I think we'll be having. So
Very.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
And Madam Mayor, council members, if I can, just summarize. First of all, I want to thank Fred and Terry Sue for coming tonight. And look, I totally understand that this is a lot of information, very complex, right? So I want the council to know that as you're evaluating this and just thinking about it, if you have questions, don't hesitate to give me questions. Obviously, if they get very technical in nature, I'm probably going to be shipping them off to Fred and Terry Sue for a little assistance. But just to summarize and perhaps close the circle, just to give everybody a bit of an better understanding. Today in Casa Grande, we have roughly 15,000 certificates of assured water supply where houses can be built today, right? And we know that there's not been one that has been issued, any new certificates for a number of years. And so as every new home is built, you subtract one from that list. We anticipate, and I think this is an important message for our residents, that that's going to give us a runway of probably 5 to 10 years of building new homes. And we've always understood that we had a bit of a runway as we were approaching the issues that we learned with this groundwater modeling issue that we were faced with. And the alternative certainly appears to be one. And again, the alternative designation of assured water supply, as Terry Sue has so eloquently pointed out, really brings some of the existing water supplies that we have somewhat near us today, the CAP, the effluent. This is still going to require developments to bring another water source, another water supply to this table as we move forward. But I do want to close with this, that because this is somewhat new in this AMA and likely in the state, I think all of you recognize that Maricopa AMA is dealing in certain locations with some of the same challenges that we are in the Pinal AMA. That there's still a process that we're navigating with ADWR that is going to likely mean that we're spending a lot of time and resources kind of understanding what they're expecting with these various applications. We do have a couple of development communities that are interested in coming along with us to evaluate that, and so there's a lot of things that we need to learn. We certainly are going to be continuing to address provide the council with briefings and updates along the way. And I guess I just want to close with the issue related to conservation, because I do think that's been one of the star elements of those initial sessions that we did with the Save It program. I typically, we get an update. Arizona Water's taken the primary lead on that conservation. The city has been a willing participant with the various audits and the like, and we are assisting in marketing that to our residents. We believe that conservation is a key component, although we've got to go out and find other solutions for actual supply. But I do typically, we do get an update from Arizona Water about once every 2 months, and I am sending that out to the council so that you can understand what type of activities are happening in conservation, because I think that is an important message to continue to express to our residents as we move forward in finding some of the other solutions. So With that, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I know you want to probably take a 5-minute break before we get started in the
Yes,
regular
ma'am.
meeting,
Yep.
so
Okay,
I will
sounds good.
stop here.
Okay? Okay, so we'll go ahead and adjourn and come back in 5 minutes, right?
I would.
city assembled here tonight. We ask that they listen to your still small voice to know the right course of action in all matters. We ask for compassion for the needy, rest for the weary, and strength for us all. We ask your blessing upon this meeting and every individual present here tonight. We ask for your blessing upon our community, our state, and our nation. We ask that you bless our entire world with your glory. We pray in the powerful name of our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Bill. Thank you, Matt. Okay, Gloria, if you can accept for the record that the council is all here.
So noted.
Okay, first item on the agenda are the minutes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move to approve the minutes of the council meeting of January 6, 2025, and consider accepting for the record the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting December 5th, 24, the Youth Commission of August 17th, 24, the Youth Commission October 26th, 24, the Youth Commission November 16th, 24, and the Arts and Culture Commission meeting of December 3rd, 24, the Board of Adjustment December 10th, 24, and the minutes for the Board of Adjustment meeting November 12th, 2024, as presented.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second for the many meetings the last couple months. If I can ask for all of those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The minutes. The claims.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move to approve the claims dated December 31st, 2024 through January 14th, 2025, as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the claims from December 31st to January 14th. All of those, any discussion? Okay, all of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. So the meeting agenda approval. A motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
You guys okay over here? Okay, so there's been a motion and a second to approve the meeting agenda. Is there anything, Larry, that we need to change on the agenda? No, Madam Mayor. Okay, anything else? No one? Okay, so if we can get all of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the meeting agenda is approved. There's no special presentation. So next on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anything that the council would like to take off the consent agenda? No. Any of the staff or any of the community? Okay.
Mayor
So-
Fitzgibbons, I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, so we'll go ahead, Gloria, if we can have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Romo.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon.
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes. Okay, we have our public comments next on the agenda. I do have one speaker card. Oh, here we go. Well, it looks like I have a few speaker cards, and these are for item on agenda number L4. So that is a public hearing. So if you did fill out for L4, we'll go ahead and wait till that hearing comes up. but I do have one speaker card that isn't, on for one of those agenda items, and that looks like it's Scott Barber.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, members of the council, my name is Scott Barber. My home is at 1173 East Avenida Elena here in Casa Grande. I'm standing before you this evening representing the Bob Mitchell Tribute Committee and our chair, Jerry Sullivan. And I'm pleased to provide a formal invitation to you all those present here this evening and all those that might be joining us at home by way of TV, to our dedication ceremony of the Bob Mitchell Tribute Marker out in front of City Hall here 2 weeks from last night, the next council meeting night of February 3rd. It will be at 4:30. You'll be having a study session starting at 5:30. So we'll be having our dedication out next to the monument out there at 4:30. Members of the Mitchell family will be joining us in a time of celebration, the memory and the contributions that we're marking of our former mayor, longtime educator, Bob Mitchell. And so we were pleased to have you there. What this is being done with the assistance, the cooperation, the sponsorship of the city's Arts and Culture Commission and their able staff liaison, Gloria Leja. And we'll be having the dedication ceremony, and then we'll be coming over here for some refreshments, an opportunity to visit for a few minutes before your study session at 4:30. So we're looking forward to that. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. Not only has the marker been set, there's still a picture that has to be inserted, but we also had the surrounding brick that's been done, and it's just beautiful. It's better than we'd even hoped. So we look forward to that 2 weeks from last night, February 3rd, 4:30, right out here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Now's the time. You have 3 minutes. Do you have any comments or questions? Not questions. I guess we can't answer the questions, but sure. Pardon me? Yes, you can come up. And if you can please state your name and address for us.
My name is Scott Farley. I live at 18049 West Carroll Avenue in Colonia del Sol. And I'm bringing up a fact of a negligence on planning and zoning. There are 2 houses on, trailers, mobile homes, 509 West Manor Drive and 513 West Manor Drive. The first one is leaning to one side and one day will roll over. The second one has a roof on it with no permits, and it was never fully finished by putting poles into the ground with 2 feet of concrete. Now this house is also starting to roll over, and someday when it happens, somebody will either die or get seriously injured. Now, Mr. De La Rosa knows he needed a permit for that roof. He kind of scoffed at it. He said it was $350 was too much. I know, I was living in it. So I'm just afraid that when those trailers do fail, someone will either die or get seriously hurt. I told planning and zoning this, and the code enforcement said, well, he's had it there for a couple of years, so we're just going to ignore it. The law is for everyone, not just certain people. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comments. Next on the agenda is contracts resolution. I think it's you, or Kevin, sorry about that.
Thank you. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council award a contract to Ellison Mills Contracting LLC for the guaranteed maximum price number 2 proposal in an amount not to exceed $891,757. And this is for the construction manager risk contract for the sewer line portion of the Peters Road widening project, and that's between Thornton Road and Burris Road in our industrial area. This sewer line that we are asking to add to this area is a key component to serving the industrial development in that area of our city. GMP 1 was already approved by council. This was to cover the sewer line portion of the Peters Road widening from Tractor Supply to the intersection of Thornton Road and Peters Road. This GMP number 2 is to cover the bore that will go underneath the road. So this is just that portion of it to add to the project. GMP number 3, which will be coming back to you in the future for approval. That'll be for the roadway construction, for the widening of that roadway. And we're hoping to get that back to council sometime this summer and then start construction on that widening if approved in the fourth quarter of this year. So again, this is just for the 260 linear feet of bore underneath the Thornton intersection. A very complicated bore. If you've ever been out to that intersection, there's just a few utilities that are surrounding that area, so not the easiest project, but we feel we have a contractor that can get the job done without too much disruption to traffic in the area. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Any questions?
You know I'm going to.
Good.
Just two, Kevin. 260 feet, pretty long bore. What all are we trying to get underneath over there? Are you going diagonally across the intersection, or?
No, it'll be a straight line bore just to get from the west side to the east side of Thornton Road. And then that'll open up that portion of that sewer line so that it can connect to any development that happens to the south of Peters Road on the east side of Thornton.
Okay. And then 50,000 on contingency, you comfortable with that? I mean, percentage-wise, it's okay.
Yeah,
Value-wise, it seems a little low.
Yeah, we're comfortable with that. We've planned this one pretty detailed and did an enormous amount of potholing when we did the design, just to make sure we knew where everything was. Fortunately, the contractor that built Thornton Road, did the actual widening of Thornton Road, is the same one that's doing this project, so they're very familiar with what they're going to be running into.
Okay, and we found all the fiber lines?
We
All
hope
fiber.
so. We can never guarantee that.
All right, and Ellison Mills is good with the that contingency as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I had.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Besides using a local contractor, which is great. I'm surprised you didn't bring that up, Matt.
Someone else to change.
So, okay. So, since there's no more questions, Gloria, we'll go ahead and if you can we can get a resolution number, please.
Resolution number 5744, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting the proposal from Ellison Mills Contracting LLC to provide construction manager at risk services for the construction of the sewer line of Peters Road between Thornton Road and Burris Road, authorizing expenditure of public funds, and authorizing the execution of a contract.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve resolution number 5744 as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion, further discussion on this? So I guess Gloria, no, we'll take a roll call vote on this, please.
Councilmember Romo,
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon,
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes. Thank you, Gloria. Okay, so next on the agenda, L1, and this will be, the whole team's coming up. Planning and Development.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. So this item in front of you is a zone change request along Cottonwood Lane. The property is just shy of 5 acres, and it sits about 600 feet west of Peart Road along the south side of Cottonwood Lane. The current zoning is CO, commercial office, and the request is to change the zoning of this parcel to B2, which is the city's general business zone district. The current zoning of CO primarily allows office uses and some personal service type businesses. The proposed zoning of B2 allows a much wider variety of retail and service uses. Ultimately, what's driving this zone change is the applicant is considering a development request that would allow business spaces for professionals and tradespeople, including interior storage and warehouse areas for individual purposes. Ultimately, if he were to pursue that type of development, he would need the B2 zoning, but he would also have to submit for a conditional use permit that would be considered in conjunction with the major site plan by the city's planning commission. When you look at this site, you'll notice that the surrounding properties have a lot of different uses and entitlements. Directly to the east, between this parcel and Peart, is undeveloped land, but its zoning is known as the Sonora Village Planned Area Development Zone, which its PAD guide is entitled for a lot of similar uses to what would otherwise be permitted in the B2 zone district. So in terms of compatibility with the parcel directly to the east, it has very similar uses between B2 and this undeveloped PAD. And of course, on the north side of Cottonwood Lane, you have the Canopy single-family rental development that just opened a few months ago, a medium-density residential development. And then to the west of the site is other undeveloped property that's currently zoned R3, which is multifamily residential. When looking at this site for proposed zone change, staff identified that the area with the most compatibility challenges would be the areas where it's adjacent to residential. Not only the R3, but more so Ironwood Commons, which is a single-family neighborhood directly to the south. And so as part of the zone change, staff did recommend to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission did agree with some conditions of record to ensure maximum compatibility with the adjacent residential areas. So the first condition that has to do with compatibility is that convenience food restaurants with drive-throughs or a restaurant-to-car delivery method and convenience stores with fuel pumps and hotels shall be prohibited. Otherwise, those uses would be allowed in the B2 in some shape or form. And then also buildings or portions thereof within the southernmost 100 feet of the property shall be no taller than 28 feet in height. Currently in the CO zone, 28 feet is the maximum. B2 allows building height of 35, so this just ensures that as you get closer to that single-family area, it would have to maintain a height maximum that the property is currently entitled to. And then the other recommended condition is that where adjacent to residential zone properties, there shall be a minimum of a 15-foot landscape buffer between the residential boundary and any building on this site. And then within that buffer, the trees would need to be planted no further than 30 feet apart. When looking at zone changes, the criteria associated with it have to do with compliance with the general plan. So I wanted to take a look at what the General Plan 2030 land use designation is for this area, and it's within the community corridor category. Within community corridor, it's designed to provide a diverse mix of uses with emphasis on linking pedestrian activity to the development and minimizing the appearance of auto-dominated areas. As you can see on this map, there is quite a diverse mix of uses with the single-family for rent development on the north side of Cottonwood, and then you have some single-family to the south, and then you have some business entitled property to the east. So this will add to that mixture and diversity of uses. However, because there is emphasis on making it somewhat more to a pedestrian scale and minimizing the auto dominance, there is a recommended condition of record with regard to signage, that detached signage for the property shall be limited to a monument-style sign, no taller than 10 feet in height. Another criteria is that the action shall be consistent with the city's general plan, including goals, policies, and applicable elements. So a general plan goal is to promote diverse business, retail, and office uses. And an action step associated with that is to encourage mixed use, commercial and retail structures to create a higher density of uses along major corridors. Cottonwood Lane is an arterial roadway. And so this is an opportunity for a B2 zone to better provide for a greater variety of businesses than what would otherwise be the case with the existing CO zone. And then as far as some specific applicable elements, guiding principle number 9 talks about managing growth to ensure that essential infrastructure is available concurrent with the new development. This site is pretty much considered an infill site because it's along an already improved roadway. There's already infrastructure and utilities in the area. And then guiding principle number 10 talks about planning for growth that allows the city to provide urban services in an efficient and fiscally responsible manner. So same situation, this site is situated in a manner that this can easily be developed without resulting in great expense to the city or to the developer. However, with regard to this site being right along Cottonwood Lane, which is an arterial road, there is some additional associated conditions dealing with the anticipated traffic management for the site. So this is a close-up on this undeveloped block. Of course, I mentioned the Sonora Village PAD sitting between this site and Peart, and then you have an undeveloped multifamily site to the west. There is an existing shared access easement that exists between Sonora Village and this property. When you look at the planned area development concept plan, it had identified a number of driveways onto Peart and Cottonwood that probably will not be allowed because of how close those driveways are to the Peart-Cottonwood intersection. Peart is another arterial road. Our access management standards today would say these driveways on the adjacent site are way too close together and too close to the interchange, and we're trying to ensure adequate management of traffic. And so therefore, the additional conditions are that shared access that sits in between Sonoran Village and this property be utilized. So at the time of major site plan review, use of that mutual cross-access easement will be required. And then also a provision of an east-west cross-access easement for the benefit of the property to the west shall be evaluated. And then the sole access for this site to Cottonwood Lane shall be via this shared access easement that's identified with the purple arrows. And then the third criteria is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the city. And as I mentioned on a previous slide, B2 is considered appropriate and necessary here to serve this area of the city. The surrounding residential area can be reliant upon commercial services offered here. And while the current zoning CO is also appropriate, CO is not envisioned as being along arterial roads. Rather, it's considered appropriate between residential and more intense commercial zoning, which is normally along arterial roads. So it's kind of like a sandwich zoning between B2 and residential. So staff feels that the recommended conditions on this zoning to become B2 helps provide compatibility measures between this area and the adjacent residential properties. Regarding the notification, it was followed by what the city code requires in state statute. We had received one inquiry prior to Planning Commission, and it was just by a passerby who noticed the sign. Their only verbal comment is, well, how is the traffic going to be managed? So staff feels that with the conditions that are being recommended will help mitigate that. At the December 5th Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission unanimously moved to forward a recommendation to City Council to approve this zone change request from CO to B2 with the conditions of record that I discussed in this presentation and are included within the staff report and RCA. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, James. Any questions? Bob?
James, could you repeat what you said about this property having access to Cottonwood Lane? Are they dependent on Sonora Village, or are they going to have a entrance off of Cottonwood Lane?
So there's an existing recorded access easement that's split between their property, the B2 property, or the property proposed to be B2, and the adjacent parcel. So it's already in place. So the condition just simply requires them to utilize that shared access.
But people won't be able to turn into this property or leave it via direct to Cottonwood Lane? They'll have to go through this property of Sonora Village?
So it literally straddles it.
Right here.
So the
So they have-
in is on their property, the
Okay.
south arrow, and the out is actually on the adjacent property on Sonoran Village.
So they won't be able to leave through that shared?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be able to
easement,
on
yeah.
Cottonwood,
Okay.
but no access from
The in is
here.
on that side, the out is on this side, but that's how they're going to access it.
Okay.
Right, yeah, the driveway will be wide enough to allow both in and out. It's just the out is technically on the adjacent property, but there's a
Okay.
recorded access easement that allows for that cross utilization.
Okay.
There is a median there in
Yeah.
Florence, and so one of the concerns that you might be bringing up is, can vehicular travel make a, like a left into the site going on westbound Cottonwood? That's going to be determined with the review of a traffic impact analysis at the time of the major site plan to see if
Okay.
we'd be comfortable with some additional turning movements, but the way it would be set up is it would only be right in, right out.
Okay. Okay. And has, the applicant is in agreement with the restrictions and this?
The applicant is in attendance tonight, and he has not indicated that he's not in agreement.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? So that's the only access point, even to Sonora Village PAD? Or these, this will be over here on this side?
I think these two.
Ultimately, what would probably happen is that's the only access point to Cottonwood for this property, but what's being envisioned is that as the property to the east particularly develops, we would encourage for some additional cross-access.
Okay.
So that potentially there'd be an access point also out onto Peart.
Right.
The driveway onto Peart probably wouldn't be as far north as where that red X is.
Right.
We would probably encourage it to be
Okay.
moved a little bit further away from the intersection. But a lot of that will take some further analysis when we have the plans.
Okay, this is a public hearing. So if there's anyone that would like to come up and speak on this item? No one in the public? Okay. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So Gloria, if we can have an ordinance number, please.
Ordinance number 1178.211.01. An ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from commercial office to general business on property located generally at the south side of Cottonwood Lane and west of Peart Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve Ordinance number 1178.211.01 as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Gloria, if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo,
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon,
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes. Okay, item L2.
Stephen, can you? Good evening, Council. So the next request, a little background on the site, is located near the northeast corner of Truckle Road and Courtson Road. It's approximately 11 acres. And the request before you tonight is a zone change from R3, which is a multifamily zoning district, to a planned area development, PAD, for high-density multifamily. PAD is a customizable zoning district that I'll go into additional details on next coming slides. The applicant wishes to add 2 additional buildings, adding 32 additional units. The existing R3 zoning requires 2,000 square feet of lot area per unit, which restricts the number of units to its current number. Accordingly, the applicant is proposing a rezone to PAD to allow the addition of 32 units, which will result in a density of 24.7 dwelling units per acre. Here's the PAD review criteria that's covered in the staff report as part of your RCA. I'll be covering the 3 highlighted items here. With regards to interrelationship of the plan elements, just a little background, the site south of Courtson, there are additional apartments nearing completion, and that's the Agave House. There's commercial development to the north and west, and multifamily on the west side of Treckle, however, it's currently vacant. And then, as you see, Cholla is to the east of the site. The additional buildings will be internal of the site and will have little impacts to the adjacent properties. With regards to the general plan, the site is within the community corridor land use category. The community corridor allows for multifamily development with a density of up to 25 dwelling units per acre. And one of the community corridor goals is promote high-density residential uses along urban corridors and near major commercial centers. And one of the action steps for community corridor is to encourage higher density residential developments on infill sites and along key corridor areas. Regarding conformance to the city's zoning code, zoning ordinance, the request meets the planned area development residential design standards with regards to setbacks. One of the requirements of a PAD is that open space requirement is 20%. Just a little background for R3, it's only 10%. So the site will have approximately 27% open space meeting this requirement. And here's just some little excerpts from their proposed PAD with additional landscaping along the additional buildings here. One of the other requirements is a landscape buffer as part of the residential design standards, and that's a 15-foot minimum landscape buffer when it's adjacent to single-family, commercial, or industrial zoning property. And if this was a new site being developed, these buffers would be required where the red is shown on the map. And so there is a chance, per the residential design standards, to request a deviation from these standards. And one of them is that the development consists of proposed infill housing development that is typically surrounded by established residential neighborhoods. The site is existing and is surrounded by established development, hence meeting that requirement. However, staff is requiring a technical correction to the PAD guide, recommending additional landscaping along their Treckle and Courtson Road frontages to comply with the existing landscape requirements. Regarding stakeholder engagement, Staff and the applicant met all the requirements per our city code and ARS. Prior to Planning Commission, I did receive one email inquiring about the proposed project. However, at the December Planning Commission meeting, commissioners expressed concerns regarding the proposed zoning and additional density. They were concerned with the concentration of development at the intersection of Courtson and Treckle Roads, the loss of open space to accommodate the additional additional apartment buildings and parking, and concerns about crime at the existing apartment complex, and that improvements are needed to the current buildings on the site. As noted on the previous slides, this meets the open space requirements of 20%. And while there is a lot of development occurring at this intersection, these are two main arterials where per our general plan is where this type of development should occur, and the additional buildings occur internal to the site and would have little impact on the adjacent properties. Also, the applicant within the RCA today provided additional information regarding the existing capital improvements that the owner has done in the last 2 years, totaling over $1 million, and also an email from the police department's PIO officer stating that there is no issues at this apartment complex related to crime. Regarding next steps, if the zoning is approved, a major site plan application would go to Planning Commission for consideration. In that would include applicable reports, including a traffic study to determine if additional mitigation is needed to accommodate the additional units. And at that time, there'll be also additional opportunities for public input. At the December 5th Planning Commission meeting, staff recommended the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval for the zone change from R3 to plan area development for high-density multifamily. However, on a 3-4 vote, the motion failed. In accordance with 1768-520, a rezoning which has been denied by the Planning Commission shall not be reviewed by council except upon written request by the applicant. The applicant has provided written requests for council to consider this request. So at this time, council may, after accepting comments, approve the zoning request, deny the zoning request, or the council may also table the matter, but can only be tabled for 2 meetings. So should City Council approve the zone change request, staff recommends the following technical corrections and conditions of approval. Again, the technical correction is to revise the PAD guide to address the landscape buffer in additional detail and revise the landscape section to meet the frontages, Courtson Road and Treckle Road frontages to comply with the city landscape code. And the conditions of approval is our typical right-of-way requirements in case any additional right-of-way is needed on Treckle and Courtson. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. Are there any questions from the council? Go ahead, Bob.
Whoops. So, generally speaking, and I'll explain myself, I'm not in favor of this. I think that by them putting in 2 extra buildings there, they are affecting in a negative way the current tenants. They're taking away their some of their free space, and also the parking is, I would think, bound to get a little more challenging for the tenants. I had one tenant seek me out and complain about the current maintenance issues on the existing buildings, and their comment was they need to take better care of their property before they start adding on. The other thing is, I don't know the history of this place, but somewhere back in time there was a planning commission that reviewed the original construction of Courtyard Apartments, and I'm sure they took into consideration the open space and the parking and approved it based on that. It's possible that the city council reviewed it and approved it based on that. This time around, planning commission didn't pass it, and with those concerns, I don't feel right about approving this. We've got a high volume of apartments available and more coming online. I don't think the demand is such that we need to start squeezing things into existing properties. But anyway, for those reasons, I'll be voting no on this. Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Just a couple questions. How many existing units are in that? area now?
There's 244 units currently,
244.
so the additional 32 would bring it to 276.
So about a 15% increase?
And just, I do want to note, they did provide a conceptual site plan with this, and they do meet they are adding additional parking, and they do meet our parking standards.
Okay.
And then, I actually lived in these apartments. I'm not going to say when, because that was a really long time ago. They were still kind of new at that time. But I believe, weren't one of these or two of these buildings actually uninhabitable for a while? No?
I do not know, but I do know the applicant may be able to address that.
Okay, that's just something I was wondering about, because I thought at least one of those buildings had a roof issue or something.
I do recall there was a building code issue a few years ago with one of those buildings. I can't give you the specifics, but yes, I think there was a building code issue with one of those buildings a few years back.
And they are all inhabitable now?
Yes, they are. And the applicant is here who could answer those questions as well for you this evening.
Okay, I guess the only other thing that I'll say is, I can't say I would agree with all of the other multifamily units that have been approved, but I don't believe that this is really the place to draw the line in the sand. We're talking about an apartment complex that's been around for 35 years or something. I mean, they've been a part of this community for quite a while. We're adding a couple of units to a place that's already there, and I believe there's still meet all the requirements we have, but that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Questions, ma'am?
Yeah, so I was gonna address parking, but they will have more parking. And the density is still below our maximum density. And the open space is still above our minimum open space. Granted, they are taking away some of it, but this is someone's business as well, and their land that they own. And, I'm sure they made the decision that this would be economically beneficial to them. I do remember when this was built, as I was going to Choya School at the time, so it was a while ago. The other thing is there's not a lot of impact because it is internal. And we're always talking about, making things better. And it looks like they are trying to make this better, and this will make a better complex. And with the landscape buffer, so I understand not going where your red lines were, because, it's not going to change how it is right now to those properties. But along the ones, like along the street here that's pictured, and Treckle, would they have to add more landscaping? Because I drove by, and it's kept as, it's green grass and trees, but there's not a lot left. Maybe there was more to begin with, but I would like to see more, because if they're gonna improve it, it would make it a lot better to add more stuff on the blue area. They'd have to add additional trees, plants, and
Yes, per our landscape requirements, I believe it's 1 tree and 3 shrubs per 30 linear feet.
Okay.
And there's a 15-foot landscape along the front edges, so that would be improved.
And like Councilman Badillan said, I'm not in favor of more apartments per se, but this is their business, and this is not gonna make much of a difference because it is internal to this site. So it's not gonna, be very visible from the street or anything like that. So I'd still like to hear what everyone else has to say, but I think they're doing a good job here. And again, they show how much they've invested in it. And, if we stop them from investing, make more money. And I'm even thinking someone's gonna wanna move into a new unit, and that would vacate an existing unit and allow them to renovate that while they're going along. But again, that's their business as an apartment owner. So that's my 2 cents.
I do have some questions. What was the open space before?
I don't know if the applicant may be able to address that. I will say, this was developed, I believe, in 1985, so we do not have an existing site plan to calculate that, but the applicant may be able to answer that.
Is your question like, what percentage of the site was open space prior to the addition of these 2 buildings?
What are they replacing? What are
Gotcha.
they putting?
Yeah.
So, Jacqueline, can you just go to the 20 and 20%? There you go. So, even after they add these two buildings and some additional parking, the site, 27% of the site will be open space. So currently, it's probably in the low 30% range today. 32% of the site is maybe open space today. So it will reduce maybe from the low 30s to 27%. Our standard is 20. So they are significantly above our standard today.
So that was just like extra parking inside of that area, basically?
No, the open space is just grass area or landscaped area, could be retention basins, but it's not parking or building area. So parking and building aren't included in the open space, right?
So it's like a park or something?
Yeah.
Or like an
Somewhere
area
you
for
can see in
kids
the
to play in,
area.
and things
Yes.
like that
Well, I think,
before?
She's
Yeah,
asking
so
what's where the apartment buildings are
Yeah,
going to go.
Yeah, like where you're putting it
Like-
now, like what is that? Like what are you taking away
What are they
from that
replacing?
space? Yeah.
I think maybe we should have the applicant address that. They can give us specifically what open space will be lost with the new buildings and new parking. That's kind of your question. right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, let's go ahead and have the applicant, if you don't mind, and I know there's a speaker card, it looks like, co-applicant, is it Saki? Right, Ryan Derjma, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. If you can come up and give your address, please.
No timing? No.
Yeah. My name is Saki Rindersma, and I'm at 8145 East Indian Bend Road in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I'm the architect for the project. I'm also the owner of, part owner of the architecture firm, so I'm a partner there as well. I want to thank the council members for actually allowing us to speak today and hear our comments regarding the plan. We started this process about 4 years ago, actually, when the city was deciding to do their general plan amendment. And James actually, Giliardi was when we had our discussion whether we were going to have to go through a rezone or perfunctory of the R3. And then Jacqueline became our planner, and we basically went through a process where she said, okay, we're going to have to go through a rezone because it's a land use category, and that we would actually have to do a PAD. And we were very open to basically going through the process and addressing those issues. We were a little surprised, actually, that the Planning Commission was giving us a 3-4 denial, and you know, we're trying to understand what it was because we didn't really actually get these findings right off the bat. But we're very open to the discussion and any comments that you guys have. I'd like to mention that we are following the mandate of the general plan, which is 24 units per acre, and we're providing, or 25 units per acre, and we're providing 24%, which is part of the general plan's amendment that you guys process. So we're basically trying to answer the questions, hey, we're providing more housing, and it's available to all levels of people to basically do that. The development has been there for a long time. The owner is here today also as well, and the property manager who actually runs the project. So they are here to ready to speak to you as well if any questions that you have. We are not losing any amenities. We're actually expanding the children's play area and actually moving it from where that parking lot is that we planned and more to the center where the trees are. So actually, we're actually improving the property. We're also going to paint the entire property again. Moise Hendlis, who is the owner, he's put in over $1 million in the last 2 years, and he'll continue that to bring the property up to standards. As far as the comments regarding the open space, we basically are meeting the requirements and also improving them, and we're not losing any amenities. Crime was mentioned, and the police department, we asked them, and they said it's a model community. They don't have any crime or any issues in that regard, so I believe that we've hopefully answered that one as well. And then all the upgrades that he's going to make on the property to make it and improve it. So that's really, we believe that it would be a good addition to the community, more housing for everyone. And we hope to hear a positive approval. So.
Any questions for the applicant? Did you have any more
I
questions?
did, yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
What updates will be made to the existing units as you're building these new ones? It is an older apartment complex. And
Yes,
so are you planning on existing updates? And then for the people that are living in the apartment complex, are they going to be able to apply to move to those newer buildings? Is
Well,
that?
I'll leave the candidly apply to the newer units. I'm sure that would probably be available to them, but we're going to upgrade the skin. We're going to paint the building. We're going to repair all the woodwork. We're going to basically modernize the exterior so that basically you'll have that. We'll also improve the amenities on the interiors, tubs, bathrooms, showers, sinks, those kind of things inside the units as well. The property manager here could probably speak to the issue of the one individual that basically said that it wasn't, habitable, or, they had issues with the maintenance. But he's here also to represent that. But yes, they'll be bringing up the entire, adding more landscape along the streets that we mentioned in the red are green areas that we're going to be adding landscape. We'll agree to all of those kind of comments.
So you're saying the interior
Mhm.
will be
Yeah, they'll
updated
yes,
in all
they'll
of
all
the
cleaned up.
units?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
And landscaping on the interior improving as well, not just
Yes.
on the streets and
Yes,
everything that they'll be.
absolutely. And
Because
you
I
can
noticed a
see
lot of,
in the landscape plan that we have there, those are all new trees and new landscape.
what's your plans for during construction to keep the
Well,
green
they'll
areas
fence,
and everything?
they'll fence those areas and protect those areas while it's under construction. And to minimize, we're also adding a loop road for better fire access. That's something that the fire department asked us to do, so that we'd actually have better fire protection for the buildings, and that was added in that process. So we're actually adding another loop road right in there in between the buildings for fire, so the fire trucks get emergency access. We're improving the parking lot. We'll restripe. And then, like I said, we'll basically add a larger children's play area in the middle, more in the middle of the community.
Is that going to be done, the children's play area, is that going to be done prior to construction? Or
No,
is that, it'll
well,
be done
so,
after?
It'll be staged. So what they'll do is they'll move the children's play area in another spot while it's under construction, so they don't lose that right away. And then we'll actually bring it to another area in beautification, and that's part, and then that'll be the permanent structure.
Any
And
other
then-
questions? I do have a question for you, or a couple. Do you know what your current occupancy rate is right now? Are you pretty much full at this point?
I'll let the owner's here, and he'll be able to answer
Sure.
that one. I don't know it. Okay, you want to come up?
My name is Moise Hendelis. My address is 137 North Hudson Avenue in Los Angeles, California. And I came here this evening. Thank you for letting me address the members of the council. I was
Move the
very-
microphone up a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go.
I was happy to hear that some of you have been around for many years, because I actually have owned this property for 35 years. And I own 4 buildings in Casa Grande, including Quail Garden Apartments, which in November was named the #1 building in Casa Grande apartment complex. So we take pride, we're also self-managed. So I'm 75 years old. I work probably 16 hours a day, and I'm involved with all the managers. Our managers have been around for 10 to 15 years, most of our staff. So we have quite a stable staff. We pay them well, and they're very happy there. When you talked about the building being, there was an issue 2 years ago or 4 years ago, you're correct. What happened was we had a windstorm, and 2 of the buildings' roofs fell off completely. So we had to basically rebuild those 2 buildings. So they've been already rehabbed and not rebuilt, really actually rebuilt. So we're operating at about 90% capacity right now, but it's moving up. So, we've gone through, Casa Grande has gone through, after COVID, there was a drop in occupancy in Casa Grande, but it's getting built up right now. I have tremendous confidence in the community, and that's why 4 years ago, I said, let's try to add some units so we can provide more housing, affordable housing. Because some of the other buildings that they're building right now, if you take a look, they're 4 stories, 3 or 4 story walk-ups. We're building 2-story buildings. We still have the area that we're providing for the common area grounds are still, still we're providing that for sufficient so that everybody can enjoy themselves. And we're rehabbing the buildings as we go along. I spent in January on this building $100,000 to rebuild the fencing around the pool and to do some of the tile roofs. But we're maintaining it at all times. We're rehabbing units as we go along, because you have to, because you got to compete with everybody else. So and the building was built in 1986. I bought them in 1989. And so we're continuously rehabbing the buildings. And this Quail Gardens I just finished painting it. It was $200,000. The courtyard will probably be painted this year. It'll probably be $250,000. But we're very fortunate in that, you know, I've been around for a long time, and we have the financial ability to do things without having to scrape the bottom of the barrel. So we've been pouring money into the buildings, and all our buildings in Casa Grande, by the way. And because they're older buildings, most of them are older buildings, but we have to do it in order to compete. And you have to maintain the buildings, or you're not going to keep your tenants happy. So I realize that. Our managers realize that. They have direct access to me and to my staff in Los Angeles. And we respond pretty much immediately when there's an issue in terms of maintenance. Thank you so much. And again, I have tremendous confidence in Casa Grande for the last 35 years. So that's why we decided to add those units. Thank you so much.
And Moise, before you leave, so thank you for answering the occupancy. So you talk about affordable housing. What is your average? I know they're all 1 and 2 bedroom apartments.
Yes.
Can you give us an idea of what that runs?
With $900, $800, $900? Where are you? What? Around $900.
Okay, for a
Yeah.
2-bedroom. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you talked about rehabbing the buildings. You know, unfortunately, $1 million doesn't go that far anymore, but we appreciate everything you're doing there. But are you planning on rehabbing the older units right away when you do?
Yeah, we're doing them. We're constantly doing those. Those
Right.
units, as we vacate units, we're
Okay.
replacing the kitchens where we have to, replacing the cabinets, replacing upgrading the bathrooms. So we've done quite a bit of it already.
Okay.
It's a constant, you know, it's 244 units, so it takes time till you get
Right.
it all done. And
Okay.
you don't want to vacate any units. So as the tenants move
Right.
out,
Okay.
we work on the units. But you have to do it in order to
Right.
compete today. If you don't, modernize and upgrade your apartments, you're going to have an empty building. And if
Okay.
you don't maintain it, you're going to have an empty building.
But the outside will be painted so that it'll all look the same?
Yes.
With the new buildings?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We painted the buildings about 4 or 5 years ago, but they are due now for another paint. We did a lot of exterior stucco repairs and all that stuff this past year. So the next project is the painting. We're ready pretty much for it already.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you letting me speak to the council.
Any other questions? I know this is a public hearing, and I know you two were the ones that had your speaker cards, both
Yes.
of you.
Yes.
So we have those, but, again, if there's anyone here that would like to speak on this item, now's the time to come up and address the council and the applicant. No questions? Nothing? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Mayor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
I have a question for staff.
Sure.
I have just a quick question. Would this project trigger some kind of traffic study for a possible turn lane? Or has a traffic study already been done due to the additional density to additional residents there at the courtyard?
So if the zoning is approved, the next step would be the major site plan application, and with that major site plan is a traffic study that would determine if there's any additional mitigation measures needed.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that you got to stay competitive with the expanding apartment market here in Casa Grande. And I really appreciate you sticking with Casa Grande for all these years and maintaining that project. And I don't want to see it go down or go away. So, thank you.
And I did have one more question. I know the public notice sign is up, and, a lot of people don't understand what those are, but are your current residents aware of your application, and are you getting pushback from any of those residents and, concerns about what's going on? Have you notified them internally?
I think other than they would like to move into the new apartment.
Can you come up to the microphone?
Can you say that in the microphone for those watching? Okay.
They would like to move into the new apartments when they're ready.
Right, okay.
And is that an option?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Do they get first dibs?
First dibs, yeah.
A wait
Yes,
list?
yes, they will, yes.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a public hearing, there's no one else, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And any other questions from the council? Okay, Gloria, we'll go ahead and if we can get an ordinance number, please.
Ordinance number 1178.458, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from multifamily residential to planned area development on property located generally at 2060 North Traco Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I'd like to move approval of ordinance number 1178.458 as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? And, I just want to make a comment on the discussion. Of course, as we move forward on the apartments, there's been a lot of discussion. We just had a meeting last week from the community, and we're trying to figure out where our direction will be. But in the past, we talked about approving zone changes for affordable housing and possibly senior housing. And so this, with the affordability piece is important. We know that's important even though we have new projects coming on board. But, this is something that we're concerned about. And obviously this is a community that offers that. And also we talk a lot about compatibility. And I think, that's really important, to have the right project, right place, right time. And like you said, Sean, this is, we appreciate you investing and giving back and trying to upgrade and be competitive. And the compatibility is there because it's your current site, so I just wanted to bring that up because there are people that, are concerned about more apartments coming in. But my biggest concern on this piece was your current residents and how they feel about you putting, kind of like what you were talking about, Councilmember Romo, putting two buildings right in the middle of your current community. So, there obviously is no one here today, so there must not be too many concerns with that, but though that would have been my biggest concern there, so. So anyway, so that was my discussion, but, so why don't we go ahead and, Gloria, if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon.
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes. Okay, item L3.
Right, this next presentation includes 3 requests, including 2 minor general plan amendments, and just a little background on that. I know last month you heard our second round of major general plan amendments. Major general plan amendments are only heard twice a year by Planning Commission and City Council. However, minor general plan amendments can occur at any time and is usually done in conjunction with the zoning as these are tonight. So a little background on this site. The site consists of a little over 3,000 acres located at north of Gila Bend Highway between Montgomery and Russell Roads. It's part of the Legends Plan Area Development, and annexation, which was approved in 2006 for a large mixed-use development consisting of almost 7,000 acres. So on the map here, the red shows the entire Legends PAD, and the yellow shows the proposed amendment for the mining. And then here's another map. Apologies for my alignment on the yellow line, but again, this shows the existing PAD land uses and the PAD amendment. Again, the first request is a minor general plan amendment to change the growth areas from phase 2 to phase 1. And the second minor general plan amendment is to remove Indian Valley Road and Clayton Road from the planned roadway network within the project property boundaries. Here's a map excerpt of the planned roadway network that's part of our general plan showing these roadways. And then here is an aerial, again, showing those roadways within the project site. And then the third request is a planned area development to the Legends PAD to allow for mining activities. The mining area would be within the purple area, approximately a little less than 3,000 acres. And then the bright green area is approximately 400 acres and will be used for open space conservation for the burrowing owl. Regarding the general plan review criteria for the growth areas, here are the review criteria that's covered in the staff report. Staff finds this criteria has been met and that the development of the site as a mining facility will have minimal city service expansion to accommodate the proposed use rather than from the original proposed uses. And then regarding the roadway, again, here's the general plan criteria that's covered in the staff report. Staff finds this criteria has been met. The roadway network was also reviewed by Public Works staff as well, and it's concluded that there will be no negative impacts to the roadway network. Here's the PAD review criteria. I'll be covering the two highlighted items regarding the general plan and the city's zoning ordinance, conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. Just a little background, a major general plan amendment was approved in June of last year to change the land use category from neighborhoods to manufacturing industry, shown on the map to the right. One of the goals of the manufacturing industry is to mitigate adverse impacts from industrial users, and action steps is to create effective buffers within industrial development adjacent to lower intensity residential office or institutional land uses by using a variety of techniques, including berms, landscaping, and walls. As the Santa Cruz Copper Project is designed, Ivanhoe Electric would incorporate earthen berms and landscaping along the edges of the property to help create an effective buffer to lower the intensity of land uses that either exist or are proposed adjacent to the site. And one of the other goals is promote diversified types of industries and uses. Ivanhoe Electric is proposing to use most of the site to establish Santa Cruz Copper Project. Copper project can only be located where the copper resources naturally exist. Casa Grande has a unique opportunity to support the copper industry because this resource exists within its planned area boundary. And development of the Santa Cruz project would promote diversified industry in the area, such as material suppliers, fabricators, et cetera. And in addition, the timing is optimal as there is an increasing global demand for copper to support the global transition to clean energy. With regards to the zoning ordinance, Santa Cruz Copper Project proposes a copper mine and renewable energy generation area, which is consistent with industrial manufacturing land uses designed for the general plan. Within their PAD, they have the following permitted uses, including potentially renewable energy generation. And the table to the right shows what they're proposing as their setbacks from the property lines. This map is gives a little more detail on their land uses. As you can see, again, on the north end of the property in the green is the proposed area to accommodate conservation area for the burn owls. Again, it's approximately 400 acres. And I also did want to note that they are, this site is also accommodating the I-11 corridor that is proposed along the north and eastern edge of the site within the Montgomery Road alignment. Regarding stakeholder engagement, again, staff and the applicant met all the requirements. Since the December Planning Commission, staff has received a few phone calls asking more technical questions regarding mining activities and its impact on groundwater. Due to these technical aspects of these questions, staff asked the applicant to follow up and provided their contact information. Ivanhoe did provide a summary of these conversations and has provided as a handout tonight. Regarding next steps, if the zoning is approved, again, the next step would be a major site plan application, and that would go to Planning Commission for consideration, and would include, again, applicable reports, including a traffic study. And at that point, there will be also additional opportunity for public input. So with that, recommendations at the December 5th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission voted unanimously 7-0 to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for a minor general plan amendment to change the growth areas from Phase 2 to Phase 1. Oops, sorry about that typo. And at December 5th, Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously 7-0 to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for a minor general plan amendment to remove Indian Valley Road and Clayton Road from the planned roadway network within the project boundary, as well as unanimously voted 7-0 to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the planned area development amendment to the Legends PAD to allow for mining activities with the following condition of approval, and that is our right-of-way condition. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So how do we handle this, Brett? There's 3 different hearings. Do we have to open them, do them all separate?
Ultimately, it's up to you, but since they were noticed different, my preference is to open each hearing and then vote on that specific item in the order that they go. So the first one will be for the growth area from 2 to 1, because if you don't approve that, then you can't approve the next one to take the things out. So we'll just kind of follow in order, but since they were noticed separately, the best course of action is to open and close 3 public hearings.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and start with the first one, Resolution 5273.33, the growth area. Are there any questions at this point from the council? Okay, so this is a public hearing. So if anyone would like to speak on this, please do so. Come up and give your name. Hi, John, if you can give your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mayor Fitzgibbons and members of the council. My name is John Gillespie. I'm a land use attorney with the Rose Law Group, 7144 East Stetson. Here on behalf of Ivanhoe Electric, we have many members of our team from Ivanhoe Electric who have been working closely with your staff over the past year on this exciting project for the city that really has a lot of important aspects that are really, I think, just bring out. This is a Casa Grande project at its core. This is the copper industry that we're built on. This is jobs. This is economic growth for the city, and really an exciting thing to be a part of. I could go into some specific details, but also want to point out we're at a beginning stage of this project. There's a lot of further permitting process to go through and vetting to go to bring this mine to fruition in the city. So I'll defer to any specific questions that you might have there. And I know we're going to go through maybe 3 hearings here, but I'm happy to kind of take all of the questions now and kind of work through anything that you might have there. To point out just two big numbers that I think are really great to highlight. Jobs. We're expecting 750 jobs to be created from the mine. 550 of those jobs are on site in 3 to 4 years when this project gets built out, that will be here to support from our population base and to bring great jobs to the city. $9.2 billion of economic activity is expected to be generated from this project as a copper mine that produces revenue for the town or for the city and for the region. One of the awesome things that staff, they did a great job pointing it out, that 400 acres of conservation area for the burrowing owl. I've done several projects here in Casa Grande. I know this is an important issue to many of our citizens, and so a great step taken by Ivanhoe to really conserve an area for the burrowing owl. With that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have about the project.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead, Bob.
I'm all in favor of this. I've sat in on a couple of briefings, and it's exciting. It's going to be a wonderful addition to our community, and I'll be voting yes on it. But I do remember back when the Legends was first starting up, and it was intended to be a residential development area. But the part I remember is dedication of land for a fire station and maybe even a police substation. Is there any chance that was discussed or could be considered?
Councilmember Helston, I don't have the background history of the fire department discussion. I'm happy if the Ivanhoe team has heard about it, but I would have thought that would have been a development conversation for when it built as residences that need a fire station, that need some of those public services. So I imagine that might have been a part of that conversation.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I know you're not held accountable for what was discussed way back then. But anyway, thought I'd ask, just in case.
Yeah, no, it is a good question, and with the Legends PAD being proposed for a large residential development that was envisioned, before the recession, there's a lot of factors there that things have changed. One of the things that hasn't changed is that a residential use is a really heavy water use. And so with a mining project coming in, we've done some of that preliminary study to see that, we're not going to have a significantly stronger use of the water in that area with a mine project that goes over 20 years as opposed to a residential project where you kind of have to show water over 100 years. So just kind of an example that there's many things that do change, but we're working to make sure that we're providing a use and pivoting to a use that the land can accommodate, and that we'll go through the permitting processes to accomplish it.
Matt?
Just a couple questions. Yeah, those are probably, you were in high school maybe when they did that. But how tall is that the tailings pile? I know there was a bunch of numbers, but I couldn't find it.
I'm going to turn to Cammie because I think she's going to have the answer to that. To also just give us a little bit more of the process, we'll go through a major site plan process. That's the process with the city where we do get into some of the specifics of, here's where the land uses are all distributed and what the tailings pile and the berm heights and those aspects. But.
Hi.
So 140.
I'm Cammie Ballard, 99 North Saskatoon Street, Casa Grande, Arizona. The tailings pile is a maximum of 140 feet in height.
Okay.
Is what we're projecting.
I see it now, but I went through it kind of fast. So I was
You came back to that page.
Yeah. And then I'm glad about the I-11 corridor staying there because that could be very important. And I know it could be a long way off, but maybe not. So you guys are all good with that staying in?
Yeah, we've designed around the corridor. I know that ADOT does it, and we've actually discussed it with ADOT and gone and had a few conversations. We've had a few conversations with them, but we have no intentions of getting in the way of that.
Okay.
And maybe we'll have to move things around, or they might have to adjust it slightly, but we know it's going to go through there at some point, and so we're designing around it.
Great. And then I just wanted to add, with all the jobs, everything, and less intense water usage, and personally, I know that Ivanhoe has been here a little while, and they're very involved in the community already, supporting a lot of stuff. So we're glad, it's neat to see someone come in and already start helping out the community and just kind of, how you guys are going to be as partners going forward. So I'm glad to see that. Thanks.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Thank you, Cammie.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No. Yeah, I've got a couple.
Sure.
Matt hit one of them. I was worried about the I-11 alignment. I want to make sure that we are working with that so that it stays.
Yes.
Have you had discussions with Francisco Grande? Because I know you're going to be your next door neighbors.
We have. They are aware that we are there, and we've had discussions with them, and so far we haven't had any
No battles looming?
No battles yet. So
Rose Law Group would
hopefully
have
never.
to decide which side to go with.
Yeah, I think we have a decent relationship with them.
Okay, and then just for my own knowledge, because I didn't get a lot of the history, you are looking at underground mining on this? So
Yes.
no open pits, so that's good.
It'll be underground.
All being processed tailings, so no leach pads?
So we are still doing trade-off studies. Right
Okay.
now, we have a tailings facility. As we study things, there might be some changes, but right now, we're planning on tailings.
Tailings, okay. And then just my last point, earthen berms, love the idea to help blend in. But when it comes to that time, I would like to see contours and not just a 3-to-1 slope and boom, there it is, and it's obvious what it's doing, so.
Yeah. So
Just a little point for future reference.
appreciate that, and we will take that into consideration. Thank you.
Any
That's
other
all.
questions? No? Okay, so I know we're still in the public hearing, I believe, right? So is there anyone else?
Thank you.
Anything else, Sean? Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for this particular resolution, and if we can get a motion. Oh, resolution number, sorry.
Resolution number 5273.33, a resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, adopting a minor amendment to the City of Casa Grande General Plan 2030 as adopted by resolution number 5273 and as previously amended by amending the growth area from Phase 2 to Phase 1 for approximately 3,323 acres of property generally located north of Gila Bend Highway between Montgomery Road and Russell Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I would move to approve resolution number 5273.33 as presented.
Second. Okay, there's been a motion and a couple seconds there, Gloria. So, any further discussion? Okay, Gloria, we'll go ahead, and if you can give us a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon.
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes. Okay, so the next one is Resolution 5273.34. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing if anyone has any more questions on this item. Anyone on this item? Okay, close the public hearing. And Gloria, if we can have a resolution number, please.
Resolution number 5273.34, a resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, adopting a minor amendment to the City of Casa Grande General Plan 2030 as adopted by Resolution number 5273 and as previously amended by removing Indian Valley Road and Clayton Road, Casa Grande, Arizona from the planned road network.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move approval of resolution number 5273.34 as presented.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Gloria, if you can please, we can get a roll call, please.
Councilmember Romo.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon.
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes. Okay, and final one, ordinance 1178.287.01. We'll go ahead, oh, this isn't a public hearing then?
Yes.
It is.
Oh, it is a public hearing, okay. So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing if anyone has any questions on approving a major amendment to the Legends PAD adopted for property generally located North Gila Bend Highway between Montgomery Road and Russell Road. Any questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And I'll take a motion. Oh, sorry, ordinance number.
Ordinance number 1178.287.01, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving a major amendment to the Legends PAD adopted for property generally located north of Gila Bend Highway between Montgomery Road and Russell Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve ordinance number 1178.287.01 as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, Gloria, if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon.
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes. Okay, item L4. Is that you, Jacqueline? Okay.
A little background on the site before I get started. Many of you may be familiar. It was previously the historical site of the Fisher Memorial House, which unfortunately burned a few years ago and had to be demolished. This site is located again at the corner of Olive and 8th Street, and it's approximately half an acre. The request before us today is a zone change from B1, which is neighborhood business, to B3, central business. Oh, sorry, I forgot my slides. Existing zoning, proposed zoning. The B3 zoning district allows for both commercial development appropriate to central business areas, including residential development with a conditional use permit. Again, this request is just for a zoning No application has been submitted for multifamily development at this time. I do want to note that there has been some comments regarding the site being a multifamily, but again, that is, would be allowed with the conditional use permit that would be approved at or considered at Planning Commission. Here are the zone change review criteria. Again, I'll be going into additional details on each of these on the next slides. First request, or first is that the action consistent with the city's general plan, including goals, policies, and other applicable elements. Did want to give a little background on the downtown land use category. This was a new category that was introduced in the 2030 general plan, and it's extended 2 blocks north of Florence Boulevard, as well as east, west, and south of the core downtown. And that was meant to extend the downtown form and to support the core downtown area. As you can see on the map here, the site is just, again, north of Florence Boulevard, and this rezoning would implement those general plan changes. So again, that this action is consistent with the general plan, including the goals, policies, and other applicable elements. Under the downtown land use category, some of the goals is to prioritize mixed-use development in and around the surrounding downtown areas, and to provide a people-first streets by planning for safe and efficient pedestrian and bicycle travel, setting downtown apart as a unique part of the community. Do want to note at the Planning Commission meeting there was concerns with traffic and sidewalks, and as this being an older part of town, not all these areas have sidewalks, but as infill development does occur, sidewalks and additional pedestrian would be included as part of the major site plan. One of the elements also in the general plan is neighborhood preservation, revitalization, conservation, rehabilitation, and redevelopment. And that vision is to improve neighborhood appearance, living conditions, and overall quality of life in the city's older neighborhoods through the preservation and revitalization of residential and commercial areas. One of those goals is to revitalize commercial development in older neighborhoods and to prioritize straightening and revitalizing existing commercial development in older neighborhoods. Second criteria is that a rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within a range of identified uses of the general plan. Again, the request to B3 is an appropriate zoning district in the downtown land use category per the 2030 general plan. Per the general plan, here are some appropriate land uses identified in the general plan and those appropriate zoning categories as well. And third, the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at that time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. B3 is the best zoning category for this site. It allows for the reduction of setbacks that would push buildings closer to the streets and allow for greater setbacks in the rear to address compatibility with the existing neighborhood to the north. Regarding next steps, if the zoning is approved, a major site plan application would go to Planning Commission for consideration. If the applicant wishes to pursue residential development at that time, a conditional use permit would be needed and would be considered by Planning Commission. Both of these applications would provide additional opportunity for public input. And depending on the requests, just note some of the additional input would be notices of application and review, and even potentially neighborhood meeting if that seems applicable with the number of comments we receive at that time. Regarding notification efforts, staff and the applicant met all the requirements. I did not receive any comments or inquiries prior to the Planning Commission meeting in December. However, since the December Planning Commission meeting, staff has received a few phone calls and emails regarding the opposition of the site related to multifamily. Again, this request is strictly related to zoning of a commercial site of B1, which is neighborhood commercial, to B3, central business. And any residential development proposed for the site would need to obtain a conditional use permit. Again, that would be approved by Planning Commission. And site design would be determined with a major site plan and considered by Planning Commission as well. Regarding recommendations, at the December 5th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the Commission voted 6-0 to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the zone change request from neighborhood business B1 to central business B3. with the following conditions of record. Did want to note that staff originally included a condition of record to limit the height of structures to 28 feet. However, through discussion with the Planning Commission, it was determined that it would be more appropriate to review and determine heights with the major site plan. There is one condition of record related to if the site is developed as one project prior to construction, the site shall be replatted to one lot. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions at this point from the council? No?
No.
Okay, so it is a public hearing, and I do have 2 speaker cards. So I think, Diane, if you want to come up, and just if you can give your name and your address, please.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to speak. So when I moved to this neighborhood 10 years ago, it was not that great of a neighborhood. It was pretty unsafe and pretty dangerous. I had gang fights out in front of my house, drug dealers in the alleys. We had a lot of empty homes that homeless were living in, but the neighbors watched out for each other. There's a lot of people that live in this neighborhood that have been here for over 30 years, multi-generational families, and that's what I noticed about it, and it made me feel safe. So I wasn't afraid to step out of my house. In the past 5 years, the neighborhood has changed. Why? Not because of police presence, because the neighbors, we've taken our neighborhood back. And we'd like some consideration when you consider what is going to go into the neighborhood around here. Since just in the last 5 years, there are at least 4 homes that were uninhabitable that have been purchased and rehabbed. We talk about affordable housing. There's affordable housing still in this area because of the homes that are down there. They're kind of run down. If we can help people buy these single-family homes, fix them up, we're helping build that neighborhood. It's a lot nicer than when I moved in. I'm not afraid to walk down my alley anymore. I have an alley on the side of my house and behind my house. I personally go out there and clean it up with my rake and my shovel. I have a lot of homeless people in the neighborhood. They know me. They know me by name. I go out there, I check on them. I want to know who's around my neighborhood. It's not just me. It's my other neighbors, my neighbors that are over here. So when I hear someone coming in that want to look at this lot and put in a multifamily, or they want to change it to a B3, I have elderly neighbors that walk down the street. They don't have a sidewalk. There's a lot of people that ride their bikes. There's a lot of families that are out there. They have no place for their kids. I have people that live down the street and they put their little sign out, children out playing. My neighbors are concerned about all this traffic coming through our neighborhood now, speeding through the stop signs. These are my concerns. What is being proposed here is not compatible with this. There's some beautiful homes on the other side of that lot. I walk by this one house, you never see a leaf in their yard. How he keeps it that clean, I don't know. But I'm just here, I'm real passionate about this neighborhood. I moved here on purpose, in that house on purpose. I love downtown Casa Grande. I would just like you to consider building beautiful around here. Let's rebuild this neighborhood. I've seen 8 to 10 homes rebuilt. They're not renters in them anymore. Home ownership is what I'm seeing happen in this community. So I would just really like you to consider that. And, I kind of spoke up to some neighbors, and people care about the neighborhood. We really do. And we just don't know how to speak up sometimes. I'm not working as a teacher anymore. Got a voice, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Diane. Okay, we have another speaker card. Is it Joanne? Michele Carlos Amaro? Okay. And I apologize if I didn't say your names right, but if you can give your names and your address, please. Okay. Oh, sure. Oh. Okay.
Now you can hear us.
Yeah, if you can give your
Okay.
name and address, please.
Okay, my name's Carlos Amaro and Joanne Mahalik. We live at 319 East 9th Street on Casa Grande. We're here to oppose it also from changing from a B1 to a B3 because we've lived there for 25 years and we like our neighborhood. And we heard that they're talking about a 3-story building coming in possibly. And if that happens, I mean, that's going to take away all our privacy in our backyards. We can't have our kids back there playing because we're going to feel like we're being watched all the time. And it's probably going to, also we're worried about our taxes going up, property taxes.
The house
and
value.
The house value.
If we want to sell it, they may not want to buy there now
Because if they have that house, the apartment buildings behind us, 3 stories, they're going to be like, we don't want to live here. So those are our main concerns.
And then the traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, like, I literally live right there on 9th Street. And
Right
all
next to
of-
the courthouse.
And,
Yes.
and there's people running the stop sign
Yeah.
that's going east and west, people that's coming north and south on Olive. Like sometimes, I mean, there's several accidents that's happened there.
Yeah.
And so with all that coming even more on Olive and 8th is a bigger concern as well. And then you can't really, when you're going east on 8th Street, you have to turn right to exit to Florence Boulevard. So like there's only kind of, so just the
So
traffic
it's going
and
to
the
make it
safety.
congested, yeah.
And then just, we haven't, like living next to the courthouse, thank God we haven't had any graffiti or anything like that. I'm not saying that that's what's gonna happen, but just, I mean, and when I'm all about helping the community, you know, for whatever it is, but there's other locations that possibly can be considered, for that specific,
Site.
site.
Yeah.
Is your house right behind this? Is it north of that?
No, ma'am.
That
It's
lot?
It's
Okay.
County Quarter. We're literally next to the city courthouse.
Got it. Right, yes. Okay.
We're on the empty lot behind it.
over here. Okay.
But it's city-owned as well. You guys own the city.
Yes, yes, we do.
But-
Recently, I guess, right?
We
Right.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, this is a public hearing. Oh, would you like to speak? Come on up, please. If you can give your name and address, please.
Yes, my name's Nat Smith, and I'm at 918 North Olive Avenue in Earl Thode's house. And so they're right about the neighborhood is getting better, and it's on the fringe of the historic area district. And, you know, I mean, I don't know what their plans are. You know, I'm going to ask you to please table this before it gets too far along, and then it becomes more of a battle if you're, you know, have concerns. But, you know, there's lots of places, I mean, if they want to build something like this, they can go down on Jimmy Kerr in Arizona. You know, there's lots of property there. A perfect example is the house right across, it's on 9th. They just built it. It's right by Marge's house, the big new house on that lot that was empty. It's really a nice place. And that would be a beautiful thing for that acre there on 8th and Olive to have a really nice home there. And, you know, I mean, there's lots to it, but tabling it so more people can get involved in it because, you know, we're only really guilty of being slow, okay? So, you know, we should have been on the ball back in December, but like I said, it's at your discretion, and thank you very much. If we could table, that'd be great.
Thank you. Sure, come on up. You can give your name and address, please.
And I'm Reed Burke, and I'm at 116 West 9th Street. I share 9th Street with my neighbors. And I'm intimately involved with the knowledge behind this project because the man who owns it and wants to build it is my father. And I've spent a lifetime being pulled out of my bed. Come on, son, let's go. You know, let's go build. He's been a contractor my whole life. And I've watched him build. And I know what he builds. I mean, I did it with him. And my brothers and I, as smart aleck kids, would find out, who you building this for, Dad? This is for Mr. Anderson. And my brother and I would say something like, well, you know what you can do for Mr. Anderson. You're just kids. But my father would say, yes, I do know what I can do for Mr. Anderson. I can build a beautiful home. And he's always said, if I don't want to live in it, I don't want to build it. And so I would say to the council, who must approve it, and to my neighbors who will live with me, because I live there with you. I'm on your street. This is going to be a beautiful project. I've already seen the cutout models of it. I've seen the drafting of it. The roof line is beautiful, really stunning roof line. It'll be gorgeous for the neighborhood. I'm excited about it. The idea of not my father who's going to build it, but the contractor. I know him. I know what he's going to build. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to make downtown, it's the kind of thing we want. It's senior living. It's like what we have here in our backyard, this senior living. It's really going to be sharp. And it's going to make our property worth more. It's going to make Casa Grande better. I couldn't be more thrilled about it. And not because my father's going to do it, or the contractor that I know, because he doesn't live here, although he probably would like to change his mind and move here. But I do live here. I just live down the street. It's going to make my neighborhood and my home better. So I hope it gets approved. I know what it will bring to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. You can give your name and address, please.
My name's Jesse Runyon. I'm at 311 East 9th Street, which is directly behind what they are trying to build. We've only been here for a couple of years. Love the spot. Love my neighbors. I mean, they've made it feel like home. Moved from Maricopa. Love the fact that it's not HOA. And the view, being able to do what I want. I got a big backyard with an RV gate. I got room back there right now. They build that, I don't. And the privacy thing is huge. It's literally going to look right into my daughter's back window and our back window. And it's just, you know, we like to have fires out there in the backyard and hang out with the dogs and stuff, and that's going to take away from our view. You know, I don't want to see a roof line. I want to see a skyline. So it's just, and bringing the property value up, no, it's going to bring the property value down, because nobody's going to want to move into my house when you got a big building to stare at in the backyard. So I definitely oppose it. Not looking forward to it. None of my neighbors are. And like I said, it's literally right over my back wall. I don't want to stare at another wall. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there. If you can give your name and address, please.
I'm Michelle Jacobo. This is my mom, Florine Anton, and we both live directly behind the project site at 816 North Olive Avenue. And I would say, being a concern, I know my mom we've lived there for quite a while, and our neighbors too. Just the concern of the traffic as well, because since we are on that corner house, we've had the HOA remove those side bushes that cause quite a lot of accidents because of the traffic coming from Florence Boulevard going down to straight that way to, of course, the neighborhoods down there. So I know we've had some issues with those car accidents, and I'm just a little concerned with the traffic evolved. And I like to say, to look around the community, does this really fit into this type of community? I know it is a little bit older. The house is a little bit older, and so that's my thing. And also the big thing is just the privacy, since we are directly from there. I know the previous building that was there before, it was like a 2-story. And I don't know if we are aware of the history of that building. It used to be a mortuary as well, so I don't know how the future tenants of that complex would feel about being above that same ground as well. But the privacy is the same thing like our neighbors. We also like to have bonfires in the backyard, and even with that 2-story building from the previous owner, we felt that our privacy was invaded because it was directly into not a largest backyard, but everybody else is on that little block as well. So I would just say that that would be my concern as well. And like I said, like they said before, there's no sidewalks really, so it's just kind of upkeep, and it is a small space, so I'm interested in how that's kind of gonna go working with the parking, with like the housing, and of course, like if they want to do that full 3-story, then that would be really a concern for us. I don't know if my mom would like to say.
Yes, my name is Florine Anton. I am the owner of 816 North Olive Avenue facing west. I'm the only house there. Then the other one's behind me. Yes, I am concerned about, the building that's going to be built. Hopefully not, because like the other neighbors said that, that's our privacy there, my backyard. And if they're going to have a 1-2 story high, they're going to be looking over in my yard, looking at what I'm doing. And for also with the traffic wise, like my daughter said that there was a few accidents right there at our crossroad right there, and then, with crime too. Since we moved there 12 years right now, we never had any issues whatsoever where we had to call the police. And if these apartments or whatever is going to be built, who's going to move in and what's going to happen. There's going to be kids, like they said, riding their bikes that I see at the evenings when I take a walk. I see them riding their bikes and they're playing. And then what's going to happen if this, this complex is going to be built there? And that's my problem there, is our privacy and our, and with the parking lot, like my daughter said, it's so small. When I go and I look there, and then I'm like, how is this going to be built? And the traffic, where is it going to come out from? Where is it going to go in from? And those are the things that I'm thinking now. Yes, I am concerned. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
I would also like to add, adjacent to that street, if you look down, so not like where we are at, but kind of behind, or at least in front of the property where it would be built, there are those houses. They do have children, and I see them all the time riding their bikes, playing outside in that little street, just because they can, because there's no traffic going right there at that spot. And I mean, same thing with them. I think my mom have met them before. We've met them for sure, and they're like good people, and like the kids too. Like they just, they're being wannabe kids. So I'm just a little concerned along with that, how they also feel. I know if they would have attended the meeting, they would have said the same thing, that their children are there going to be in that front yard. Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Public hearing? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So any other questions, comments from council? No? Oh, go ahead, Matt.
So one thing we're looking at tonight is just the zoning, not the site plan yet, which would have to come back. Something I found interesting, though, is that it was limited to 2 stories originally, 28 feet. And then the zoning that we did tonight even, one of the first ones we did was limited to 28 feet up against the houses of the area right behind it. And when these folks bought their house, there was a 2-story building there. So I think that's the expectation. I don't know if it'd work with 2-story buildings, but it's one of those things of, going up to 3-story right there is going to be very hard on the folks that live there. And then the other thing is, you can push the buildings to the street, like Jacqueline said, because of the zoning. But again, we're talking about site plan stuff, and we're not deciding the site plan tonight, just more of the zoning. So that would be something that the Planning and Zoning Commission would hear when it gets to the site plan part of it. So, but the 28 feet is kind of, because that was a condition originally, and then it was removed, which was interesting to me. And even though tonight, like I said, the last one, or the first ones we looked at, was a 28-foot limit near the houses. So I'm kind of, in favor of the 28-foot.
Can you put that back in? Can we put it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'd look to the city attorney to see if he could advise us whether or not council could add that condition back in.
Council always has the opportunity to, add conditions in if you think it would be appropriate. I think the staff, I don't believe it was a staff condition, right? It was one that they had kind of looked at to do that. I think part of the reason it had been left is that under the B1 zoning, it's 35 today. So, to limit it to that. But council could certainly do that. You have the opportunity to do that, to limit, what those are, just like you always do. You either have the opportunity to approve it, to deny it, to table it, or approve it with those conditions that you think are appropriate. So if you did want to add a condition limiting whatever development it would be, it could be office, under the B3 zones, there's a number of things they could do, just like under the B1 zones, but you could, limit that to either 28 feet or 35 feet, depending on what you would want to do. So what we would do is if that's requested, then after the ordinance is moved, we'd look to amend it to add a condition limiting it to 28 feet.
Because the other thing too is it is in our downtown area, and that's, it's a vacant lot right now, and that is a good use. We did a bunch of studies with the Urban Land Institute and everything about population downtown to help the downtown grow, and I understand your neighborhood, and it should be a nice building, and they said they built a nice building. But I do definitely see the three-story thing right behind your house. Originally it was not a three-story building there,
Right.
so.
I don't know if a three-story building would fit in that area either. When we think about our downtown and what that is, I just don't see that fitting into it.
Well, and I think my concern, well, first of all, thank you all for coming. It's important for you to give feedback on both ends. And so, you're right. We expanded the downtown area, and we're trying to revitalize and bring people and improve and bring more people like you that are investing and want to live there and have access to the downtown that's in our transit area where they can get around town. So, we are focusing, my concern is, when these people bought their home, there was one two-story house there. Right. And so I wasn't sure because we didn't get, well, there may have been one rendering. Was there one thing that showed the what they're going to look like? I mean, or is there nothing in, I can't remember. There's nothing in the packet.
No.
There's just discussion that they were going to build, how many units are going to be there, Jacqueline? I mean, do you have any idea?
I do not, Mayor.
Okay.
There's been no official application has been filed. There's
Right.
been discussion with the applicant, but we were just going with the zoning first, and
Right.
then the next step would be the
Right.
site plan. So there will be additional discussions with the applicant.
Okay.
on
So
that.
during the site plan, they would review that, and there will be, public meetings where people can give community input and, on what they would like to see. I hope the applicant is here listening too, because you talk about being part of the neighborhood and part of the community, and I hope you're listening to what the people here are saying. Again, they bought their home with one two-story building behind them, not 10 or 12. I don't even know how many they're asking to put in, but it is not a big lot, and so that's my only concern. But then, but again, but I understand where we're trying to go with, building and improving that area. So and during the site plan and the conditional use permit, when they apply, they will have to go through all the traffic studies. Is that correct, Jacqueline? The traffic studies, there'll be public meetings for input, and those decisions will be made then. Right, okay. So that's my whole thing. I'm, just not.
Would they have to do sidewalks?
Yes, as part of any infill development, there would
Okay.
be public improvement, including sidewalks.
So there will be improvements. Okay. Did you have a
Yeah,
question?
I was just going to say, I kind of agree with Matt about getting that limit back on there for 2 stories on this now.
Right.
And then that way, and
Whoever.
knowing that this is just a zone change request, but if we get that limit on there now, that's what was there before, that's what will go in now in the future. And then hopefully the applicant and the other residents that have expressed their concerns, and I appreciate the comments and your passion for it. I would hope that they could get together and actually work out something so that they get so that everybody's happy at the end of the day,
Mhm.
and that area gets something built and beautifies the area.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Matt, for bringing that up.
And, you know, and this is what we consider an infill, you know, lot.
Right.
And so we want to develop it so it's not, like, when you drive by, I live down off of McMurray, and, you know, so I drive down Olive every day. So I understand, you know, I drive by that lot, it's an eyesore right now because of all the dead weeds and everything, and so I think, you know, and then, of course, the city took over the lot next door, and so we're not sure what we're doing there, but, you know, we're really trying to improve it and expand the downtown area, so in the end, you know, it you know, just revitalizes the area, so I'm with you. I think, you know, I hope that, you know, this is just a zone change, but there is definitely room for, you know, feedback later in the process. And you talk about maybe some of the neighbors that didn't know what was going on, and, you know, but this is the time to bring them in. You know, if we approve the zone change, it's time to bring them in and give feedback. And the applicant is going to hear that feedback, because it's not going to be a done deal at this point. So, for a multifamily housing, anyways.
And also, it's an interesting area because it's mixed use, so it's kind of a buffer from commercial to residential. So it's a good place for a small project like that. And again, we have a lot of vacant lots, and my grandpa owned a house on Olive Avenue for 50 years, I think, and we sold it a few years ago. But they have all been rehabbed very nicely, especially I drive down Olive a lot because of memories, but they have been really fixed up, and it keeps coming this way. So having something new there would be nice, and that way when you're coming off Florence too and going down, and then starting the sidewalks in the neighborhood as well, you know, so that would be a good transition, because that's what we try to look for. Zoning is about compatibility too, and there's businesses on one side, houses on one, and then public stuff on the other, so it's kind of a mixed
church
use.
across street.
And a church there too, yeah, so. But yeah, that's right, Matt.
Okay, so, did I close the public hearing? I don't even remember. I did, okay. Okay, so, any other discussion from council members? So Gloria, if we can have an ordinance number, please. The what?
We'd have to make it.
Oh, okay.
Ordinance number 1178.459, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing zoning from neighborhood business to central business on property located generally at the northeast corner of 8th Street and Olive Avenue, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve ordinance number 1178.459 with an amendment to the height of 28.
So if I understand right, then the motion is to move the ordinance as presented with adding condition number 3 to read the maximum height of any structure shall be limited to 2 stories, and then in parentheses, 28 feet.
That is correct.
Second.
Okay. So there's been a motion and a second, and any other discussion here? Okay, so Gloria, if we can have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo,
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Badillon,
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
And I'm going to vote yes, but I want those of you that are here to know that please continue in this process, because your input is going to be really important, you know, as they come back. And I hope you see, you know, where you know, we're going and trying to revitalize and bring more, you know, just revitalization infrastructure to that area. So please be involved in the process. So I vote yes as well. Thank you again. Okay, so we are now at reports. So we'll go. Who wants to go first? No. How about you?
No reports from me.
No, okay. Thank you. You're like, I'll start, right?
I would say just thank you to the city all of our workers and city workers for the Unity March that was on the 16th, as well as MLK Day of Service, which was on Monday. We had a lot of people. Each year it's been growing. This is our third year. We've given away 645 hot dogs that day. We had over 400 workers, service workers, to go out in our community, and whether it's cleaning up the alleys, painting graffiti, covering it up, so many different projects. And so thankful to all of our citizens that came out, and we had a wonderful time in serving our community. So I'll stop.
Okay, Matt.
Just real quick, I came to the housing meeting the other night, and it was very well attended, better than I thought. And we heard a lot of good input. And one thing I was thinking while we were doing it is we might want to have some sort of education session on how the zoning works, because one comment I heard is that build to rent went up, or they didn't say, those houses went up right across from Safeway, and we didn't even hear anything about it. And we did have a lot of public meetings about that, I will say, by law. So it'd just be interesting for people to know more about the process. If they're interested in learning about it, we could do something, starting with our thing next Monday will probably help. And I am representing the city now on the TAG group, which is the Tourism Advisory Group. And so once again, we are having our second annual Taco Fest, and it is on March 25th, 2025, from 3 to 9 at Dave White Park. And we'll have Drew Parker, country recording artist, as our headliner, and other mariachi bands and cover bands and kids' performances all throughout the day with everything. So keep looking for that, but mark the date, March 25th, for the Taco Fest, presented by our 2025. What's that? 29th. Thanks. I'm going to get in trouble from the tourism group, yeah.
Yeah.
The 29th of March, sorry. And I was trying to concentrate on writing 25, but, so at Dave White, March 29th, we'll have all those things I just talked about. So, and then it's a great weekend for the street fair. There's probably 10,000 people down, I mean, literally. That's what I heard at the meeting today, so it was a great day.
Wow, that's great. Bob?
No report.
Okay, Brent?
No reports for me.
And Rebecca?
Just a really quick thank you to Councilman Edwards, Mayor Fitzgibbons, Dr. Lucky for participating in the Unity March. It was a great event. I think we had about 1,000 students, and I want to say a thank you to our police department, fire department, to Larry and our parks for all that they did. It looked great. It turned out great. Kids had a wonderful time. They were safe. And another thank you to Jeff Lavender. I know he's not here, but I'm assuming he's watching. So.
No, thank you, Councilmember Romo, for organizing that, and Anthony is on the MLK committee, and of course Scott McEwen and the whole committee. Both events were great. It was great having the middle school kids there on Thursday doing the march and just remembering what it's all about this holiday, why they're getting the day off too, so that was great. And then of course yesterday at the service project event, just thank you. The staff was great. Our code enforcement, Byron, and Priscilla kind of spearheaded that. Our community services department working with that, with everything, figuring out the cleanup, where they're going to go. And so, no, it was a great, beautiful day. And to Larry for going and painting. He was out there doing the graffiti. He's a little sore today, so he was doing some of the graffiti abatement there. So thank you. Thank you, Larry, and thank you to all the staff. It was great. Both events were really good. The Youth Commission, it was great visiting them. Every time I'm with the Youth Commission, they amaze me, how talented and smart, and we're going to do good with the next generation.
All the students, I forgot.
Yeah.
I mean, we had both football teams, both RLTC,
At the
cheerleading
MLK.
squads, from both schools. It was just a great event.
It was a great event.
Great event with a lot of youth.
So many kids, so many youth there. So, and then the Youth Commission, thank you for inviting me. Speaking of youth, we have, I think I mentioned last meeting, for those of you that know seniors, the Cesar Chavez Memorial Committee has their application. They're open until, February 21st. So please go to CesarChavezPenel.org and submit, if anyone, is a senior, graduating senior, for the applications. So last week I attended the mayor's safety lunch. Again, thank you to Larry and the staff for just recognizing the employees that, just take pride and, and their commitments to safety in the workplace. We gave certificates to over 40 employees that have been making sure they're attending safety, sessions and being safe in their workspace. So that was a great lunch. The affordable housing meeting, we're going to be continuing. That was just one meeting to start, and I know a lot of people left with some unanswered questions, and they weren't sure what the outcome was going to be. And so just remember, this was just the very first meeting that we were trying to get input, and that data is going to help us as we move forward on direction of where we're going to go. The point in time count, which is the homeless count, is going to be this Thursday. And so we had a great training last week where there was, I think 50 or 60 volunteers that came to the public safety facility and were trained on how to go out and perform this point in time count that's going to be on Thursday. So if you haven't gone through training, they do ask for volunteers to go through this training, but if you really want to still do the point in time count, we're meeting at 7 a.m. here in the council chambers, and they're actually going to do it for 3 days in a row, not just one, so we can try to get the most that count that we can with the homeless. And thank you to again, code enforcement for participating. Our housing department, Mary Allen, is heading that up, and all the community organizations and our police department. Thank you, Chief. You guys have always been supportive of all the volunteers that are going out and doing this count, and people were excited to participate. So we have quite a few people that are ready to go this week to count the homeless, and we count on that information. For those of you that don't know, we count on this information, the data, for future funding, and so we know what's going on in the community and where our homeless are. So we'll be getting that information after. Let's see. Pardon?
The street fair.
The street fair. I know the street fair was great. I think you
I
brought
had a
up.
great
No,
time
it
at the
was
street
great,
fair.
great.
That was a great
Castro Main
turnout,
Street,
so many
great
people.
turnout.
Yeah.
Great. Everything about it was great. So I think that the last thing is just the next week we have our open house with the mayor and council, January 27th at 6 p.m. So please mark it on your calendars and join us. And if you would like to, if you can't attend the meeting, there is going to be a survey online that community members can give input on, where they see, the city and what they would like to see, and some of the, issues or whatever they would like to see in the community.
At the rec center, though.
What did I say?
No, you didn't. But
At the rec center.
Yeah, so people know.
Yes, at the recreation center. So that's it. Just a lot of meetings during this, all this transition, and there's so much going on besides all these activities. Obviously, a lot of discussion on water, on transportation, working on homeless, Larry's a busy man, that's for sure. And Stephen, we're talking, recycling and recreational activities and things like that. So a lot going on, and we're looking forward to moving into the CIP plan and the budget coming up. Sorry, or Brett, I'm not going to say much more on that. So with that, one more thing here?
Yeah,
Sure.
I just forgot to thank Lisa. She came to the youth commission meeting and talked to the kids for like an hour, but it seemed like 15 minutes. It was a great, it didn't.
She was able to speak for an hour?
Yeah.
You know what they tell me? 3 minutes.
Yeah, she started out. But
Tell
it
a
was
preacher
really
3
great.
minutes.
I learned a lot about Lisa. I've known Lisa for
I know.
15 years, and I learned even stuff I
new
didn't know. Yep.
things.
But it was great to talk to the kids and encourage. Her whole thing was encouraging people to keep in touch with your roots here in Casa Grande and
Right.
come back.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. No, thank
Not
you.
a big issue yet.
You'll get 5 minutes next time. So, okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.